Chapter 1839 Soul Burn? It's too late. Although it was 3 simple words, they seemed to have given Fortress Master Hong Tian his death sentence. It's too late. Fortress Master Hong Tian lowered his head and he seemed to feel remorseful. However, all of a sudden, Fortress Master Hong Tian's body expanded fiercely and his body was like a ferocious beast from the past and it dashed out instantly. He then bellowed furiously, "Then you shall die first." Fortress Master Hong Tian's expression was hideous, like a cornered beast's. His hands then unleashed a ray of black light. The ray of black light was ice cold and it headed toward Jian Wushuang's head immediately with an infinite amount of coldness. The speed of the ray of black light was actually faster than the Hongjun Golden Sword's extremely fast speed. "I knew that you would do this." Jian Wushuang's eyes turned grave. He knew that an ancient existence and an overlord like the Fortress Master Hong Tian would not beg for forgiveness like an idiot when he was near a situation where he would die. His begging for forgiveness was simply to create an opportunity to use his own killing move. However, it was a pity that Jian Wushuang had already taken precautions against that a long time ago. The instant the ray of black light appeared, divine power emerged from Jian Wushuang's body and he extended his palm. Ancient God's unique skill, 8 divine mountains. Bah, 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 bah. 8 lofty golden divine mountains landed in front of Jian Wushuang and they acted as layers of defense. Although the speed of the ray of black light was unbelievable, it was not too powerful in terms of power. Hence, after piercing through 6 golden divine mountains in succession, it stopped at the 7th divine mountain. It stopped. Fortress Master Hong Tian's eyes turned scarlet in color. When he saw that Emperor God Lu Guang had already taken form in front of him, he turned his body to the back instantly and escaped hastily. Fortress Master Hong Tian had unleashed a secret skill to escape with all his might. As his speed was extremely frightening, he covered millions of miles of distance instantly and appeared before the purple formation. Break! As Fortress Master Hong Tian looked at the great formation which was formed by the One Realm Pearl, he gave a thunder-like roar and 2 giant axes swung out. For the 2 giant axes, both had the power to split the heavens and earth apart. When they were swung powerfully on the purple energy wall, rumble. The whole formation shook madly. However, it still blocked the attacks of the giant axes in the end. What? Fortress Master Hong Tian's expression changed. He was a peak emperor god and the attack that he had unleashed was actually unable to destroy the great formation in front of him? It should be known that the great formation was obviously a treasure that Jian Wushuang had used and it was formed in an instant. As such, logically it should not be so powerful. Upon seeing that, Jian Wushuang laughed coldly. One Realm Pearl is a treasure that I obtained from the ancient battle and it came from the ancient past. Although it is not a Chaos Divine treasure, its worth and its effects are greater than that of a normal Chaos Divine treasure. For the great formation that the One Realm Pearl contains, if I were to unleash it with my current divine power, although it would be formed instantly, it would be considered the ravings of a lunatic if it were destroyed by one attack from a peak emperor god. Jian Wushuang had tested the power of the great formation from the One Realm Palace a long time ago. Even if it were him attacking it with his full power, it would still take him 2 to 3 attacks to destroy the great formation. As for Fortress Master Hong Tian, his abilities were not as strong as Jian Wushuang's. Let's not give him any chances. Let's attack together and kill him, Jian Wushuang said with a heavy voice. Leave it to me. Emperor God Lu Guang's eyes turned cold and dense white light gathered in her fair palms. A frightening aura was also gathering on her hands slowly. Jian Wushuang's eyes shrank. He knew that Emperor God Lu Guang was unleashing her killing move. Boom. The universe shook. After that, 3 brilliant lusters attacked while illuminating the surroundings. The 3 lusters were not obstructed in the slightest and they even ignored the spacetime. In an instant, they appeared in front of Fortress Master Hong Tian. Fortress Master Hong Tian was like a lion who was extremely furious and he activated his secret skill. With that, the 2 giant axes in his hands expanded and he swung them fiercely. Bah, bah, bah. 3 loud sounds could be heard. What followed that were the sounds of Fortress Master Hong Tian spitting out blood. Before Emperor God Lu Guang's killing move, although Fortress Master Hong Tian was a peak emperor god, he was still seriously injured. Just then, a giant crack appeared at the top of the void abruptly. An infinite amount of purple sacred thunder was also gathering in the crack crazily and it descended slowly with the power to destroy the world. Ancient God's secret skill, thunder attracting skill. Jian Wushuang's eyes were glowing with a black jade luster, and more than hundreds of life-destroying sacred thunder that had gathered in the crack fused together instantly to form a giant life-destroying thunder dragon. It then descended while roaring furiously, and it covered Fortress Master Hong Tian's body at once. As for Emperor God Jian, he appeared quietly beside Fortress Master Hong Tian like an assassin, and a noiseless saber light headed toward Fortress Master Hong Tian's nape abruptly. Ah! All of you have forced me to do this. With a loud and furious roar, Fortress Master Hong Tian went insane completely. On his forehead and body, a vein emerged, and it was so hideous that it was frightening. At the same time, the aura on Fortress Master Hong Tian's body rose again. Moreover, its speed of rising was extremely frightening. This is soul burn? Not good. Emperor God Lu Guang's expression changed greatly. Boom. With a loud sound, a fearsome axe shadow split everything in the universe apart, and also split the life-destroying thunder dragon, which had descended from the void above, into two. In addition, the saber light that Emperor God Jian had unleashed dispersed instantly as well. On top of that, great portions of void burst apart like paper paste. Amidst this frightening divine power storm, a 3-meter-tall body which looked like a demon god stepped forward fiercely. The first person that he appeared in front of was Emperor God Lu Guang. Swish! An axe shadow descended. White lusters then appeared in front of Emperor God Lu Guang immediately, and they acted as protective screens. At the same time, she swung her jade hands abruptly, and her great amount of divine power formed a giant palm print to block the attack from the axe shadow. However, the shocking axe shadow swept past her unreasonably. The protective screens, which were formed by many white lusters, were smashed into pieces instantly, and the giant palm print which accompanied them also dissipated. Umph! With a groan, some blood flowed out from the corners of the Emperor God Lu Guang's mouth, and her body was sent flying. Jian Wushuang, I want you dead. A hysterical voice reverberated across the universe, and the face of the 3-meter-tall, demonic, godlike body had already distorted to its maximum. However, one could still tell vaguely that the demonic, godlike body was Fortress Master Hong Tian. However, he had already become crazy like never before. Boom. After taking another step, Fortress Master Hong Tian, who had already gone insane, appeared in front of Jian Wushuang. Swish! A giant axe shadow descended again. Sword Emperor, be careful. Emperor God Lu Guang warned immediately. What? Jian Wushuang's expression changed. He had not expected that at such a stage Fortress Master Hong Tian would still able to use some techniques to unleash such fearsome fighting capabilities. However, fortunately, his reaction was fast, and he gathered divine power right away. The Blood Mountain sword in his hands then unleashed a frightening sword essence. Reincarnation Sword Principle, 4th move. Chapter 1840, The Last Counterattack. Bang! The loud noise shook the earth. Jian Wushuang's face grew dim. He could feel that the Blood Mountain sword in his hand was extremely unyielding. In the unyieldingness, Blood Mountain sword was slashed to the side, and the towering axe shadows containing some power hit Jian Wushuang's body. *T. Emperor God Lu Guang was shocked. Sword Emperor? Emperor God Jian stared. Oh! A terrifying power spread like a rising tide. Jian Wushuang's body quivered and then flew off like a bomb. He flew over 10 of thousands of miles before he regained his stability. When he steadied himself, Jian Wushuang's face was slightly paler than it had been before. Looking at the scene, Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor Jian were astonished. Are you joking? Emperor God Jian looked in disbelief. Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul power. It is the strongest attack that he performed with his all. Even Emperor God Lu Guang would have been injured if she took the hit directly. But Sword Emperor, the huge axe hit his body and only his face turned pale slightly? That's it? How is it possible? Emperor God Lu Guang was shocked too. Such a terrifying hit, even though Jian Wushuang had blocked half of its power with his sword, the remaining power theoretically could kill an Emperor God too. In the end, Jian Wushuang merely turned slightly paler from the axe hit. There was no bleeding, let alone spitting blood or being severely injured. Read more chapter on VIP novel. His defense power was this strong? Jian Wushuang looked at the crimson armor surfacing on his body in surprise. The crimson armor was originally blotted with rust. However, when it recognized Jian Wushuang's as its owner, it resumed its original look and became extremely eye-catching, like magma from a volcano. The reason why Jian Wushuang wasn't injured from the fierce hit by Fortress Master Hong Tian was because of the crimson armor. 5-gem armor. Senior Wu Hun really gave me a great treasure, Jian Wushuang muttered. The crimson armor, which was 5-gem armor, was something that had been relied upon by experts in ancient times. Jian Wushuang had obtained only the damaged 5-gem armor and it could only perform less than 10% of its power. Even so, its defense power was far beyond Jian Wushuang's imagination. Jian Wushuang had even thought that the defense power of 5-gem armor then was much stronger than the chaotic divine treasure level armor that Emperor God Tianxiao was wearing back then. In addition to Jian Wushuang's strong divine body, because of his possession of ancient tribe bloodline, he also had 5-gem armor to protect his body. It would be a wild wish if Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul power with the intention of killing Jian Wushuang. Sword Emperor, Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul in order to explode such ferocious power. However, he who is a peak Emperor God, his soul wouldn't be that strong. The burning of his soul wouldn't last long. We only have to drag him on for a little longer. By then we can kill him easily. Emperor God Lu Guang shared a message. I understand. Jian Wushuang's gaze fixed upon Fortress Master Hong Tian. He could tell that Fortress Master Hong Tian was totally fighting a desperate fight, like a cornered beast. Die. Die. Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang charged at him again. Then, the two of them didn't fight head-on with Fortress Master Hong Tian but indirectly entangled with Fortress Master Hong Tian. As for Emperor God Jian, his power was weak and any single axe hit by Fortress Master Hong Tian then could severely injure him. He didn't have the guts to bother Fortress Master Hong Tian and he hid far away. D*MN. I'm not happy. I will not submit. Fortress Master Hong Tian roared. With the burning of his soul power, he wanted to hurt Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang badly. However, Emperor God Lu Guang was powerful and her speed was shockingly swift. Fortress Master Hong Tian couldn't touch her at all. As for Jian Wushuang, he was fearless. He was totally confident in fighting Fortress Master Hong Tian head-on. Even if he couldn't match him evenly, it would be impossible for Fortress Master Hong Tian to hurt him. In a short while. Fortress Master Hong Tian roared as his consciousness became blurry. It was the price to pay for burning his soul. One should know that soul was an Almighty's foundation, the core item. When divine body was damaged, it could be recovered with the aid of treasure. But when the soul was damaged, it would be a few times more difficult to recover. Fortress Master Hong Tian burned his soul in madness and he couldn't stop when he ignited the burning. The final outcome would be the complete disappearance of soul. Hence, Fortress Master Hong Tian died. Although his soul power had yet to burn to the end, his consciousness had dispersed due to too much burning. Then Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang stopped. They looked at Fortress Master Hong Tian's aura grew weaker in front of them. Then in the end, a golden light burst out and Jian Wushuang's Hong Jun golden sword pierced Fortress Master Hong Tian's head then shattered his divine body. An overlord, Fortress Master Hong Tian, who had reached the peak of Emperor God level, had died. When they that saw Fortress Master Hong Tian had finally died, Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang both let out a sigh of relief. Peak Emperor God is really not that easy to kill, Jian Wushuang sighed. Fortress Master Hong Tian among peak Emperor Gods wasn't considered the strongest and he was only on the 36th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, he had also brought about trouble for them, especially when Fortress Master Hong Tian had risked his all by burning his soul power. Luckily, Jian Wushuang had 5-gem armor to protect his body. Otherwise, his counterattack before his death would pay the price. Soul burn, only an expert whose soul strength has reached a certain level could perform. He at least has to be a peak Emperor God to perform this move. And as peak Emperor God, only under one circumstance would he perform this move, which was when he knew that he would definitely die. He would risk his life to make a final counterattack in order to try his best to kill his enemy. The moment he uses this move, death is his only outcome, Emperor God Lu Guang said. Jian Wushuang nodded in silence. He also could tell that Fortress Master Hong Tian was already hopeless. He had no choice, that's why he had performed that move. Emperor God Hong Tian was a peak Emperor God. His soul power has reached the threshold of this move. However, he is too weak after all. Even when he performed this move, he couldn't bring about damage to us. If it were to be another peak Emperor God who was stronger, the outcome would be beyond our imagination. Or even if it were to be a great emperor who burned his soul in a desperate situation, that would truly be a horror. Emperor God Lu Guang said, and her eyes revealed a tinge of fear subconsciously. Chapter 1841. Abysmal Saint Master, a great emperor using soul burn? Jian Wushuang's body shook as well. With just a mere Fortress Master Hong Tian using soul burn, the fighting capabilities that he had unleashed were already so frightening. If a great emperor were to unleash this move, Jian Wushuang was totally unable to imagine how fearsome it would be. However, great emperor experts stood at the top, and in the eternal chaotic world, wouldn't there be no threats that could force them to that extent? Jian Wushuang asked. Under normal circumstances, it would indeed be impossible. However, in the history of the eternal chaotic world, there was a great emperor who was forced to the point that he unleashed this move. As a result of that, this great emperor fell. As for who forced him to this extent, it was Emperor Bai, Emperor God Lu Guang said. Jian Wushuang was stunned. He knew that Emperor Bai, who was recognized as the strongest person in the eternal chaotic world, had once killed a great emperor. In a situation where he had given up all hope, that great emperor would definitely counterattack by using soul burn. However, looking at it, even though he had used soul burn, he was still unable to do anything to Emperor Bai in the end. Instead, he had died in Emperor Bai's hands. Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang was having a discussion. All of a sudden, buzz. A powerful aura burst forth abruptly. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jian looked in the direction of the source of the aura immediately. At a void by the side, a white-robed man had just rushed over and he crushed a token right away. The powerful aura had come from the token. After that, Jian Wushuang and the two of them noticed that a dim black shadow was taking shape slowly in the void. After the black shadow took its form, the whole universe fell into complete darkness, and it was so dark that it looked as if the sun could not be seen forever. This aura, in the whole eternal chaotic world, there is only one person who has this aura. Jian Wushuang and the two of them looked at one another and their eyes filled with fear. After that, the three of them greeted the black shadow together. Greetings to Abysmal Saint Master. The Abysmal Saint Master was the great emperor who ruled the Abysmal Sanctuary. At that moment, the consciousness body of the Abysmal Saint Master had descended. Jian Wushuang. A hoarse voice spread across the area slowly. All of a sudden, a pair of sharp eyes from the black shadow pierced the void and looked at Jian Wushuang fiercely. When he was stared at by that pair of eyes, Jian Wushuang's body could not help but shake. Oh, Lu Guang is here as well? The Abysmal Saint Master glanced at Emperor God Lu Guang. Emperor God Lu Guang bowed down immediately to show her respect. As for Emperor God Jian, Abysmal Saint Master was too lazy to even look at him. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang, all of you have fought your way into the Abysmal Sanctuary without even coming to greet me. Aren't you disrespecting me? The Abysmal Saint Master's voice was ice cold, and it was impossible to tell whether he was delighted or furious. The hearts of Jian Wushuang and Emperor God Lu Guang felt chilly. There was no choice. After all, they were facing a great emperor, and it was not a normal great emperor. On the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, there was a total of 15 great emperors, and Abysmal Saint Master was ranked third. He was only inferior to the Red Dragon King and the Supreme Emperor Bai. Abysmal Saint Master, in front of many experts of the Sanctuary Alliance 1 year ago, I said that I would fight my way into the Deluge Fortress within 10 years' time. If I'm not wrong, Saint Master should have heard of this piece of news? Jian Wushuang said. I have indeed heard of it. However, hearing of it is one matter and not greeting me is another matter. Abysmal Saint Master's voice turned heavy and the universe shivered in fear. Jian Wushuang gritted his teeth. Let's cut the crap. I only came here to tell you that since the Almighties in the Deluge Fortress have a grudge against your lineage of star, you can go ahead and kill them and I will not stop you. However, Fortress Master Hong Tian has stayed in the Abysmal Sanctuary for many years and he can barely be considered one of my people. Hence, you are not allowed to kill him. Do you understand? The Abysmal Saint Master said heavily. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang frowned. After muttering for some time, he said, Abysmal Saint Master, I'm sorry. You're a bit too late. Fortress Master Hong Tian already died. What did you say? Abysmal Saint Master's sharp eyes changed into two strands of lightning and swept over the area. The lightning struck the void beside Jian Wushuang and cracked open the void completely. However, Jian Wushuang stood upright at his position. Fortress Master Hong Tian has already died, Jian Wushuang said again. Abysmal Saint Master, Emperor God Lu Guang spoke as well. Indeed, Fortress Master Hong Tian has been killed. How can it be so fast? Abysmal Saint Master frowned. The moment he got the news that Jian Wushuang had fought his way into the Deluge Fortress, he got people to bring his token and hurry to the Deluge Fortress immediately. Along the way there was no delay at all and not much time had passed since then. Looking at it from his point of view, in such a short amount of time, it would be impossible for Jian Wushuang to kill Fortress Master Hong Tian. After arriving at the battlefield, although he did not see Fortress Master Hong Tian right away, he thought that Fortress Master Hong Tian had escaped. However, he did not expect Jian Wushuang to kill a peak emperor god like Fortress Master Hong Tian in such a short amount of time. Humph, Jian Wushuang, Sword Emperor, you are really talented. Abysmal Saint Master was ice cold. Before I took action, I looked at the information of Fortress Master Hong Tian and I thought that Fortress Master Hong Tian was not really related to you, Abysmal Saint Master. As such, I took action. If I offended you, I hope that you will forgive me, Jian Wushuang apologized. Haha, he has already been killed by you. What use is there for me to blame you? The Abysmal Saint Master laughed coldly. Forget it? Jian Wushuang. The Abysmal Saint Master's sharp eyes looked at Jian Wushuang again and there was some coldness deep inside his eyes. For the matter this time around, considering the fact that you do not know of our relationship, I shall not blame you. However, I still have to warn you, for whatever you do in the future, you had better stay low. In this period of time, you killed quite a number of Almighties and there are already many people in the Sanctuary Alliance who are dissatisfied with you. As you are a top genius, the Sanctuary Alliance is still able to bear with it. However, if you were to continue your massacre and overdo it, you might go over the limit of the Sanctuary Alliance. At that time, even if we have to suppress our grief, the Sanctuary Alliance will still send experts to kill a top expert like you. You had better look out for yourself. After giving a cold snort, Abysmal Saint Master's black shadow started to dissipate slowly. Farewell, Abysmal Saint Master. Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jiao Yin bowed down and looked at the Abysmal Saint Master's consciousness body as it started to dissipate slowly. It was not until it dissipated completely that the three of them stood up. Haha, the Abysmal Saint Master can really hold his temper. Moreover, looking at it, he does not really like me, Jian Wushuang laughed. Dislike you? That's highly possible, Emperor God Lu Guang nodded her head. According to what I know, the Abysmal Saint Master has always been extremely envious. Chapter 1842, Rope and Jealous? Jealous of who? Jian Wushuang asked subconsciously. Emperor Bai, I guess. In eternal chaotic world besides Emperor Bai, who else could make him jealous? Emperor God Lu Guang smiled. As for the reason why he didn't like you, I think you should be able to make a wild guess. Jian Wushuang kept quiet. He heard Emperor God Lu Guang and he naturally understood. Abysmal Saint Master, the third place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. It was said that he and Red Dragon King on the second place were evenly matched. Because Red Dragon King's defense power was higher, he was listed at a higher rank than him. There was nothing to be jealous about with Red Dragon King. However, it was different from Emperor Bai. Emperor Bai, he was widely acknowledged as the strongest in eternal chaotic world. He was a superb existence that could kill another great emperor. Although Abysmal Saint Master was in the third place, he was fearful of Emperor Bai. He couldn't stand the feeling of fear. Hence, he might be jealous of Emperor Bai. As for the reason why Abysmal Saint Master was unhappy with him, it was because he was greatly talented and had too great of a potential. Once he received the 7th step of inverse cultivation skill and broke through to being an almighty, he would definitely have fighting power of a great emperor. If he were to improve more, he could easily reach the level of Abysmal Saint Master and Red Dragon King. If he were to reach his peak in growth, he could totally become the second Emperor Bai. One Emperor Bai had already made Abysmal Saint Master super jealous, but there was another one? From what I know, Fortress Master Hong Tian has nothing to do with Abysmal Saint Master. Fortress Master Hong Tian isn't his man. But he descended his consciousness clone for Fortress Master Hong Tian and wanted to stop me from killing him? He was obviously aiming at me. He said earlier that Sanctuary Alliance felt a strong antipathy towards me. I think it was just him alone. If it wasn't me who had barged into Deluge Fortress today but another powerful peak emperor god, Abysmal Saint Master might not care. Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes and said. Very possibly, Emperor God Lu Guang said, and he only descended his consciousness clone after all. It didn't possess any fighting power. If he were to descend personally, he might use that as an excuse to kill you. Maybe because he has scruples with Sanctuary Alliance, he wouldn't kill you directly but he could punish you slightly. Hee, it seems like Abysmal Saint Master is quite dictatorial. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. Whoever is powerful could be dictatorial. In actual fact, many great emperors of Sanctuary Alliance who are high above are all dictatorial. There is no one who dares to go against their will. Once someone goes against them, punishment is considered a mild treatment. Sometimes, they might even take action to kill some Sir Gods and Emperor Gods. Comparatively, Emperor Bai, who is highest of all, takes note of his identity and almost never descends to punish Sir Gods and Emperor Gods. As for the great emperor that Emperor Bai killed, he was immoderate in conduct and stepped over Emperor Bai's bottom line. Hence, Emperor Bai killed him, Emperor God Lu Guang said. I see, Jian Wushuang raised his eyebrows. Whatever. I never provoke any of the great emperors anyway. The great emperors shouldn't kill me personally. After all, they have to consider the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance who are anticipating my growth. Just like Abysmal Saint Master who didn't like me and didn't want me to grow, he didn't dare to do anything about me in public. At most, he would play some tricks at the back. That's true, Emperor God Lu Guang nodded in agreement. Let's go. Let's leave. Jian Wushuang immediately left with Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jian. They drove out from Abysmal Sanctuary at the fastest speed. In the ancient silver spaceship, Jian Wushuang sat together with Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jian. As for Jian, he stood by the side politely. Haha, it felt great. It was a great fight. 13 Almighties including Fortress Master Hong Tian, none of them escaped and all are killed. Emperor God Jian looked excited. Although he was an emperor god and had once participated in many massacres, he had only seen once or twice a scene where 13 Almighties had died together. Plus, the deceased included peak emperor god, like Fortress Master Hong Tian. To be able to kill all 13 Almighties including Fortress Master Hong Tian, such great battle achievement, I have to thank the two of you for your assistance. Thank you, Jian Wushuang expressed his gratitude. I took a chance to avert calamities for others. It's nothing. To be frank, I didn't do much for this fight and I received a chaotic divine treasure. I feel a little embarrassed, Emperor God Jian rubbed his nose. The biggest killer of the fight had been Jian Wushuang. He had killed more than half of the Almighties alone. Plus, he had performed a great technique to break the formation forceful at the beginning. Then he had killed Emperor God Bing Can in a short time, which had led to the situation of one-sided domination. It could be said that the fight had succeeded mostly because of Jian Wushuang. Then there was Emperor God Lu Gang. At the beginning of the fight, Emperor God Lu Guang had suppressed Fortress Master Hong Tian so that he didn't have any chance to attack. Hence, Jian Wushuang, Emperor God Jian and the 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers could kill all the other 12 Almighties. Lastly, there was Emperor God Jian. He had only held back some Sir Gods. He put in less effort. Regardless, without both of your help, it would have been impossible for me to kill Fortress Master Hong Tian and the rest. Jian Wushuang smiled and then took out the spear that gave out boundless chilliness. Emperor God Jian, this is your reward. Jian Wushuang passed the spear to Emperor God Jian. Ha, thank you. Emperor God Jian took it and was thrilled. A chaotic divine treasure. Although he didn't use spear as his main weapon, it was extremely precious to him. Looking at Emperor God Jian's expression, Jian Wushuang asked again, Emperor God Jian, I wonder if you would be interested in being Lineage of Stars Guest Elder? Guest Elder? Emperor God Jian raised his eyebrows and smiled. Sword Emperor, how can I? Guest Elder is only a name. You don't have to do anything for Lineage of Star normally. Only when Lineage of Star is in crisis, you lend us a helping hand will do. As for the condition, I will give you another chaotic divine treasure, a defense armor. Jian Wushuang said. What? Emperor God Jian stunned. Even Emperor God Lu Guang at the side couldn't help but look at Jian Wushuang. Chaotic divine treasure was extremely precious, everyone knew that. Defense armor was even more precious than attack divine weapons. Emperor God Jian had a chaotic divine treasure levels divine weapon and it was a divine weapon that he was good at. In addition to the spear that Jian Wushuang gave him, he had 2. The combination of 2 was far behind a defense armor. Chapter 1843 Extremely Rich. Sword Emperor, are you for real? Emperor God Jian's eyes glowed brilliantly and he looked at Jian Wushuang. Of course, Jian Wushuang laughed. Moreover, if you were to be a guest elder of the Lineage of Star, you would also have the chance to cultivate the secret skill of Star Palace of the Lineage of Star. The secret skill of Star Palace? Emperor God Jian's eyes turned red at once and his breathing became heavier. A Chaos Divine Treasure level defense armor was extremely attractive to him. After all, most of the Emperor Gods, which was inclusive of some peak Emperor Gods, did not possess a Chaos Divine Treasure level defense armor. For example, Fortress Master Hong Tian did not have one. Moreover, the secret skill of Star Palace was even more impressive and even great emperors drooled at the secret skill of Star Palace. As such, he naturally yearned to cultivate it as well. So, as long as he agreed to become a guest elder of the Lineage of Star, he would be able to obtain all these? Things were really falling into his lap. Of course, for the secret skill of Star Palace at the very least, You must become a guest elder of the lineage of Star for 100,000 years and also make some contributions to the lineage of Star before you are able to cultivate it. As for the defense armor, I can give it to you right away, Jian Wushuang said. After taking a deep breath, Emperor God Jian looked at Jian Wushuang again. Sword Emperor, thank you for thinking so highly of me. The conditions that you have given me are too alluring and I am absolutely unable to find a reason to refuse your offer. However, because of that, I find it a bit embarrassing. How about this? Give me some time. It will not take too long, at most thousands of years. Then, I will definitely come to the lineage of Star and I will also bring the lineage of Star a great present. With that, I will have the right to become a guest elder of the lineage of Star. No problem. Jian Wushuang's eyes brightened up. After that, he flipped his palm and some black armor appeared in his hands. The moment the black armor appeared, Emperor God Jian's eyes were attracted to it right away. He could already tell that the black armor was of the level of a chaos divine treasure. I will give this armor to you first. Jian Wushuang passed the black armor to Emperor God Jian. This. Emperor God Jian hesitated slightly. Sword Emperor, I have yet to join the lineage of Star for real. This armor? It is merely a chaos divine treasure level armor and it is nothing much. Just accept it, Jian Wushuang laughed. Upon seeing that, Emperor God Jian stopped refusing him. When Emperor God Lu Guang, who was at the side, saw the scene, she could not help but gasp. It is a chaos divine treasure level armor and you gave it away so easily. You are really liberal with your wealth. Moreover, if I am not wrong, the armor that you are wearing is of the level of a chaos divine treasure as well. Even though some peak emperor gods have paid a huge price, it is still very difficult for them to obtain such a kind of armor. For example, Emperor God Tian Shao of the Soaring Heaven King Palace only possessed one because of the great foundation of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, as well as Emperor God Tian Ling. However, Sword Emperor, you alone possess two such armors. This really makes us envious of you. Emperor God Lu Guang, if you really need it, I am willing to give you the same conditions and also add on some Chaos Divine Treasure level attack weapons. Why don't Emperor God Lu Guang come to the lineage of Star and become a guest elder as well? Jian Wushuang laughed. Upon hearing that, Emperor God Lu Guang was attracted as well. From Jian Wushuang's words, she could tell that Jian Wushuang still had Chaos Divine Treasure level armors. Moreover, he had a few attack weapons. With so many treasures with him, he was not concerned in the slightest. This had caused Emperor God Lu Guang to be extremely surprised. In actual fact, Jian Wushuang indeed did not care about those treasures. It should be known that he had searched the ancient battlefield in his hometown for 6,000 years alone. For that ancient battlefield, no almighties had gone to search it. As such, a large number of treasures and opportunities remained there in one piece. They were all waiting for Jian Wushuang to get them. In just a short 6,000 years' time, he had searched many special pieces. As such, how many treasures and opportunities had he obtained? In particular, in one of the special places, he had obtained a total of 7 Chaos Divine Treasure in one go and there were 2 armors among them. Moreover, including Fortress Master Hong Tian, he had killed a total of 4 Emperor Gods and obtained 3 Chaos Divine Treasures. By adding all of them up, Jian Wushuang possessed more than 20 Chaos Divine Treasure and among them, there were 4 armors. With so many Chaos Divine Treasure on hand, Jian Wushuang could be said to be extremely rich. As such, he would of course not be stingy with regards to 1 or 2 armors. After all, the lineage of Star situation then was not normal. If he were able to use 1 or 2 Chaos Divine Treasures to win an Emperor God over, he would have benefited greatly. However, it was a pity that Emperor God Lu Guang shook her head and declined. Be it attack weapons or defense armors, I have all of them already. Moreover, I do not like to participate in fights between the powerhouses or sections. Hence, I can only thank Sword Emperor for your good offer. Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang could not do anything at all. No matter what, Emperor God Lu Guang has helped me greatly this time around and I will definitely remember this favor of yours. In the future, if you have something you need help with, please go ahead and instruct me, Jian Wushuang said. Emperor God Lu Guang nodded her head. The ancient silver spaceship left the Abysmal Sanctuary in no time. After leaving the Abysmal Sanctuary, Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jian bided farewell to Jian Wushuang. Of course, before leaving, all of them exchanged their transmission tokens. Sword Emperor, within the next thousands of years, I Jian will definitely go to the lineage of Star, Emperor God Jian said earnestly. All right. Jian Wushuang nodded his head. The two of them left in a jiffy and Jian Wushuang also started to head back to the lineage of Star. In no time, the news of Jian Wushuang inviting Emperor God Lu Guang, Emperor God Jian, and bringing 4 battle puppets to fight their way into the Deluge Fortress and then killing the 13 Emperor Gods, including Fortress Master Hong Tian, spread. The whole Sanctuary Alliance and the whole eternal chaotic world burst into an uproar instantly. Colored glazed sanctuary within the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Emperor God Tian Shao was drinking tea with Sir God Xian Bing and Sir God Chen Ren, who had just joined the Soaring Heaven King Palace. At the same time they were also chatting. That Jian Wushuang is really extremely arrogant. Fortress Master Hong Tian, Emperor God Bing Can and the 11 Almighties under them. With such a frightening lineup, even the Soaring Heaven King Palace would be a bit afraid of them. However, this brat actually said that he would fight his way into the Deluge Fortress within 10 years? And kill these 13 Almighties? Where did his courage come from? Emperor God Tian Shao snorted coldly. This Jian Wushuang's speed of growth is too fast. Moreover, he killed 2 Emperor Gods previously. As such, he is blind and extremely arrogant. According to what I know, when he made his decision and said those words, he did not consult the Star Palace Master or the Almighties in the lineage of Star at all, and he merely made the decision himself. Who does he think he is? Even if it were the Star Palace Master, I reckon that he wouldn't be so daring as to do that? Sir God Shen Bing laughed coldly. I reckon that the Star Palace Master and the Almighties of the lineage of Star are probably so scared that they are unable to find a place to cry in? Sir God Shenlong sneered. However, just then, a piece of news was sent to the 3 of them at almost the same time. Jian Wushuang has already fought his way into the Deluge Fortress. Fortress Master Hong Tian, Emperor God Bing Can and the 11 Sir Gods under them are all dead. None of them has escaped. Upon getting the news, the smile on the faces of the 3 of them, who were originally sneering wantonly, froze instantly. Chapter 1844. Changes in ranking in Sanctuary Alliance. There was a hubbub. Countless experts had heard that Deluge Fortress was destroyed and the 13 Almighties, including Fortress Master Hong Tian, were killed. They were extremely shocked and they couldn't believe it. One should know that there was a powerful formation of 13 Almighties, especially as there was a peak Emperor God like Fortress Master Hong Tian. Previously, Jian Wushuang had said in front of many experts on Thunderbolt Island that he would go to Deluge Fortress in 10 years. Many sneered at his speech and thought Jian Wushuang was arrogant. Under the condition where the Master of Star Palace was restrained and unable to attack, they didn't think Lineage of Star would be able to destroy the team formation of 13 Almighties. Some were even prepared to make fun of Lineage of Star. But in the end, it had yet to be 10 years. Merely a year later, Jian Wushuang had barged into Deluge Fortress and killed all 13 Almighties as he had said he would. Even Peak Emperor God, Fortress Master Hong Tian, was killed on the spot. It was simply unbelievable. Fortress Master Hong Tian, Peak Emperor God, a super expert. How did Jian Wushuang kill him? I heard that Jian Wushuang invited Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jian to join him. The 3 of them joined forces and cornered Fortress Master Hong Tian into a desperate situation. Fortress Master Hong Tian couldn't run at all. He had no choice but could only burn his soul and counterattack before death. In the end he died. After that fight, Jian Wushuang's bad name has reached another level. There should be some drastic changes on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, right? Countless experts were chatting among themselves. The fight where Jian Wushuang had charged to Deluge Fortress had caused a huge scene. In the surroundings of Deluge Fortress, there were naturally experts who were watching from afar. There were even some who had recorded things with a mirroring token. The mirror image of the fight was spreading to the public. Jian Wushuang's performance was too outstanding in the fight. In a short period of time, he had killed Emperor God Bing Can with thunderous measures. Then he had wiped out all Sir Gods. Then he had joined Emperor God Lu Guang and Emperor God Jian to corner Fortress Master Hong Tian to his extreme limit. Every scene had astonished the crowd. Especially the 3 Hong Yung golden swords that Jian Wushuang had used struck fear into many Emperor Gods. Too powerful. The golden swords that Jian Wushuang controls, every sword's attack was like a hit by Peak Emperor God. It was unbelievably fast too. I reckon one could easily suppress an ordinary Sir God, but he could control 3 at once? The 3 continuous hits could totally suppress a Peak Emperor Sir God. Jian Wushuang is much stronger than we had imagined. In terms of power, he was definitely above Fortress Master Hong Tian. Compared to the Master of Star Palace, he isn't too far behind too. The scariest part about him was his hunting power. 3 golden swords, secret skill of ancient god, moon-picking skill, and also the mysterious pearl that becomes formation via his will. Once his opponent's power is below him, his opponent won't be able to escape. His hunting power is too strong. No wonder Fortress Master Hong Tian, who is a peak emperor god, couldn't escape. Many people were sighing. They were admiring Jian Wushuang's power. Of course, there was something that Jian Wushuang had displayed in the fight that had astonished many of them. It was his defense power. When Fortress Master Hong Tian was forced to his extreme limit, he had burned his soul and wanted to counterattack before his death. The axe that he had swung hit Jian Wushuang's body directly. In the end, Jian Wushuang had merely grown slightly paler. That amazed many of them. The defense power is too strong. The crimson armor that he was wearing is definitely a very powerful chaotic divine treasure. His divine body was shockingly strong too. Otherwise he wouldn't be able to withstand the hit so casually. His close combat skill is already so ferocious and his defense power is so terrifying. Jian Wushuang, everyone complimented. But what they didn't know was that Jian Wushuang's current defense power wasn't at its peak yet. One should know that when he received the ancient tribe bloodline inheritance, Jian Wushuang had comprehended the first volume of the strongest secret skill of ancient tribe, Immemorial Celestial Body. Immemorial Celestial Body could be in the top 10 of countless defense secret skills, even in ancient times. It was definitely the best and the strongest defense secret skill. Although Jian Wushuang had comprehended the first volume from the stone steel, comprehension and cultivation were two different matters. He had yet to cultivate it. It was not that he didn't want to cultivate, but he wasn't qualified to. Merely the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body required at least for one to reach the level of early-stage chaotic realm. In other words, the level of Sir God. As Jian Wushuang was an inverse cultivator, his divine power and divine body could be compared to an emperor god favorably. However, in terms of realm, he was truly just a real god. Hence, even though he had comprehended the secret skill, Jian Wushuang had yet to cultivate it. Someday in the future, when he received the seventh step of inverse cultivation skill and breakthrough to reach chaotic realm, he could cultivate the first volume of Immemorial Celestial Body. In collaboration with 5-gem armor, his defense power would really be terrifying then. Just as the forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance were astonished by the news about Deluge Fortress Crush and Fortress Master Hong Tian's death, there were some changes in Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list as they had expected. And it was a drastic change. After all, ever since Jian Wushuang had started exterminating experts who harbored great resentment against the lineage of Star, in 10 years' time, there had been 4 Emperor Gods who died in his hands. The Emperor Gods were all listed on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. With 4 Emperor Gods' deaths, there was, of course, a drastic change on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. However, many experts in Eternal Chaotic World only paid close attention at Jian Wushuang's ranking. Everyone would want to know which rank Jian Wushuang, who had massacred for over 10 years and carried such a bad name, would be on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. There were many who started guessing before the ranking changed. In the top of Sanctuary Mountain on Thunderbolt Island, there was an exquisite pavilion. There were 2 Sir Gods who sat together and played chess as they chatted casually. The main topic of their conversation was Jian Wushuang. Judging from the mirror image of him killing Emperor God Bing Ken, his fighting power should be extremely strong among peak Emperor Gods. He is at least stronger than Fortress Master Hong Tian, so his ranking is definitely higher than Fortress Master Hong Tian. I reckon he would be the 32nd or 33rd. Of course, if he were to be lucky, he might even be in the top 30s. Top 30? Wouldn't that be higher than the Master of Star Palace? You don't think he would go that far up, right? Who knows? We shall see. The great emperors who are the higher-ups of Sanctuary Alliance are more knowledgeable and experienced than us. They could definitely estimate Jian Wushuang's actual power from the fight. There shouldn't be any issue with the ranking list. Very soon the ranking list was announced. Jian Wushuang, Sword Emperor, Real God Inverse Cultivator, 30th rank. Chapter 1845. Sect Master. Colored Glaze Sanctuary, inside the Soaring Heaven King Palace. As one of the founders of the Soaring Heaven King Palace, Emperor God Tian Shao then was extremely furious. Ranked 30th on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list? The higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance actually placed Jian Wushuang in the top 30? Damn it. Even Star Palace Master is ranked 31st and he is one position lower than Jian Wushuang. In other words, Jian Wushuang has already surpassed the Star Palace Master? As Emperor God Tian Shao thought about it, flames of fury emerged from his heart. It should be known that more than 6,000 years ago, when Jian Wushuang had clashed head-on with the Soaring Heaven King Palace in the Soaring Heaven Land and Sea Continent, Emperor God Tian Shao had once fought with Jian Wushuang head-on. Back then Jian Wushuang's abilities were not too different from his. However, in just over 6,000 years Jian Wushuang had already surpassed him completely to get into the top 30 of the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. At such a level, he could be considered an outstanding figure among the peak emperor gods. In other words, if he were to come across Jian Wushuang again, there would be no room for him to resist and he could only escape miserably. Moreover, Jian Wushuang's accomplishments were displayed there. For those people whose abilities were weaker than his, it would be next to impossible for them to escape from his hands. This caused Emperor God Tianxiao to be even more furious. Beside him, Sir God Xianbing and Sir God Qianren felt chilly. Originally, they had thought that as long as they were to join the Soaring Heaven King Palace, with their protection, Jian Wushuang would not be able to do anything to them. However, looking at it then, this was not the case. Read more chapter on novel full. Even the Deluge Fortress, which contained 13 Almighties and was overseen by Fortress Master Hong Tian, had been destroyed by Jian Wushuang easily. As for the Soaring Heaven King Palace then, wasn't the number of Almighties it possessed less than that of the Deluge Fortress? Fortunately, the Soaring Heaven King Palace has a great foundation and that great emperor-colored glaze has shown herself personally to warn Jian Wushuang. As long as the both of us stay in the territories that are controlled by the Soaring Heaven King Palace, this Jian Wushuang will not dare to be reckless. However, if Jian Wushuang continues growing at such a frightening speed, there will come a day where even great emperor-colored glaze will be unable to suppress him. At that time, Sir God Xianbing and Sir God Qianren looked at each other and their eyes were filled with fear. After that, Sir God Xianbing said immediately, "Palace Master, that Jian Wushuang's speed of growth is too fast and we definitely cannot let him continue growing. Hence, we have to find an opportunity to get rid of him as fast as possible." "Of course, do you think that I need you to tell me that?" Emperor God Tianxiao stared at Sir God Xianbing and his expression turned grave. Jian Wushuang's current abilities are out of the ordinary. The only way that is possible for the Soaring Heaven King Palace to kill Jian Wushuang is to let Big Brother take action personally. Big Brother. As Emperor God Tianxiao muttered to himself, he took out a token and he sent a message to Emperor God Tianling, who was still in the second lair. "Big Brother, when are you able to come back? That Jian Wushuang's speed of growth is too fast and I am completely unable to suppress him." After the token was silent for some time, a message was finally sent over, "I will definitely return within 3,000 years. 3,000 years? Emperor God Tianxiao's heart moved and his eyes revealed a delighted expression after that. "Jian Wushuang, I shall allow you to run amok for another 3,000 years. After 3,000 years, when Big Brother takes action personally, you shall die." This was a territory which was concealed deeply and was extremely far away from the 10 sanctuaries. This whole territory was covered by a giant formation and this formation was not a normal protective formation of a sect. It was a formation that was deployed after depleting a great amount of resources along with many almighties who specialized in formations, as well as 2 great emperor-level experts taking action personally. Hence, such a great formation was extremely powerful. Even if a great emperor were to descend, not only would he be unable to destroy the great formation, his life would be at risk if he were to enter the great formation. In the whole of eternal chaotic world, probably only the great formation in the Thunderbolt Island, which was the base of the Sanctuary Alliance, could be compared to this great formation. As for the large territory that the great formation covered, it was the base of the Holocaust sect. The Holocaust sect was a dark powerhouse which operated beneath the eternal chaotic world throughout the years. Similar to the Acheron Palace, the Holocaust sect was one of the greatest threats to the Sanctuary Alliance. At that moment, at the center of a hall which contained a standalone space in the base of the Holocaust sect, there was a huge sacrificial altar which was floating. At the highest point of the sacrificial altar, there was a throne made of ice jade. On the throne, a white-clothed woman whose face was covered by a veil was seated. As the white-clothed woman was covered with a veil, her whole face could not be seen clearly. However, even with just the small part of her face which was revealed, it was enough to captivate countless cultivators. As for the pair of eyes that she revealed, they were ice-cold like frost on a dried fish. "Master, this is the piece of news that has come from the Sanctuary Alliance and you can take a look at it." A black-robed old woman who was by the side handed a token to the white-clothed woman with respect. The white-clothed woman took the token and scanned through it with her consciousness. "Oh." An indifferent voice which was filled with surprise could be heard and the white-clothed woman's eyes were filled with astonishment. "Rank 30 in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list? Ah, this is really shocking. As expected of the man of this body of mine? Looks like if we were to clash with the Sanctuary Alliance head-on in the future, he would become a big threat to my Holocaust sect. Master, there are now many people in the Sanctuary Alliance saying that there is a huge possibility of Jian Wushuang becoming the second emperor Bai, and this is not good. Hence, we have no choice but to take precautions. If we can find the opportunity, we had better get rid of him as soon as possible, the black-robed old woman said. Get rid of him? The white-clothed woman's eyes turned cold and she shook her head. Assassinating and getting rid of geniuses of the Sanctuary Alliance are things that the Acheron Palace should do, and it is unrelated to the Holocaust sect. Moreover, Jian Wushuang's identity is special. Without my orders, no one in the Holocaust sect is to take action against him. Understood. The black-robed old woman nodded her head repeatedly, and she did not dare to go against her. Oh no. How are the preparations with regards to that matter? The white-clothed woman asked abruptly. The preparations are already done. All the experts under the Holocaust sect are in place and everything can proceed according to the plan, the black-robed old woman said. Great, the white-clothed woman laughed. After planning and preparing carefully for so many years, we have finally come to this stage. Send an order that we will proceed according to the plan after 10 days. Understood, the black-robed old woman accepted the order. 10 days later, in the base of the Holocaust sect in the dark region of the eternal chaotic world, a frightening massacre storm burst forth without any warnings. This storm was earth-shaking and countless experts fell in this battle. In particular, out of Almighties alone, more than 30 of them fell. If such a frightening great battle were to happen in the Sanctuary Alliance or the eternal chaotic world, it would definitely result in an unprecedented storm. However, as it had happened in the dark region, it was quiet as if it had never happened before. After the great battle, in the floating giant sacrificial altar in the standalone space, the white-clothed woman who was covered with a veil still sat like before, and below her legs there were close to 100 experts who had knelt down with respect. Greetings to Sect Master. The voices shook the heaven. On that very day the Holocaust sect underwent a great change and a Sect Master was born. Moreover, the Sect Master had the surname Lung. Chapter 1846. Massacre in the Past, Part 1. Just as the entire Sanctuary Alliance and the entire eternal chaotic world were shaken by Jian Wushuang received the news himself. 30th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List? Isn't it above the Master of Star Palace then? Jian Wushuang touched his nose. Besides, Hall Master Yuan sent him the mirror image of the fight in Deluge Fortress. The image only started after the formation around Deluge Fortress was broken. There isn't any record of me using River Mountain Map. Jian Wushuang beamed with joy. Mountain River Map was one of his trump cards. It was naturally best to expose it if possible. In actual fact, it was because he had used River Mountain Map as a welcome gift and broken the formation outside Deluge Fortress that stirred a commotion. When the nearby experts recorded a mirror image, they naturally couldn't record the scene where Jian Wushuang had performed River Mountain Map. This is fortunate. Although I revealed many techniques in this fight, there are still many trump cards that have yet to be exposed. Jian Wushuang smiled faintly. No one knew that he had held back during the fight. He had yet to fight all out. He didn't expose all of his trump cards either. Like the Dao soldiers, he had merely used 4 silver-armored Dao soldiers. He had never used even one of the 100 bronze-armored Dao soldiers. Plus, his sword servant whose fighting power was above him, Jian, had never fought either. He continued to keep many trump cards for Lineage of Star. Now my ranking on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List is higher than the Master of Star Palace and my bad name is well known. With my bad name, even if the news about the Master of Star Palace's death spreads, various forces who wanted to pound Lineage of Star will have to think twice, Jian Wushuang muttered. Regardless of the outcome of the fight or the deterrent force of the fight, Jian Wushuang was happy with it. As the 13 Almighties in Deluge Fortress had been killed, the remaining solo experts who harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star were few. Either they sought refuge in greater forces or they hid at the border of eternal chaotic world. Even Vientiane Tower couldn't find them. Read more chapter on novel full. Jian Wushuang could do nothing about it. Hence, he could only return to Lineage of Star first. In Lineage of Star, in the vast void, Jian Wushuang sat on the far highest throne while Hall Master Yuan, Gu Xan and Ye Yun sat below. The 3 Hall Masters were looking at Jian Wushuang with their eyes filled with reverence. In the past dozens of years, Jian Wushuang had stirred a massacre storm in eternal chaotic world with his strong power and ferocious measure. He had killed many solo experts who harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star. His bad name had served as a deterrent to eternal chaotic world. Then he was listed on the 30th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking List. With such power and outstanding achievements, the third Hall Masters naturally respected him from the bottom of their hearts. Hall Master Yuan, previously when I invited Emperor God Lu Guang to Deluge Fortress, Emperor God Lu Guang told me on the way that Sanctuary Alliance's higher-ups once had an agreement with the Master of Star Palace many years ago. The Master of Star Palace's action was restricted for the past years. He couldn't massacre with secret skill of Star Palace. What's with this matter? Jian Wushuang creased his eyebrows and asked. Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Nye Yun looked at Hall Master Yuan too. Hall Master Yuan was Universe Galaxy Weapon Spirit. He took care of many things in Lineage of Star and he knew the most about the Master of Star Palace. It is true, Hall Master Yuan nodded and started explaining the ins and outs. It happened many years ago. Back then, the Master of Star Palace just obtained the secret skill of Star Palace in Ancient Mystery Land. After he obtained it, he didn't announce the secret skill to the public. In the end, when Lineage of Star fought with a major force, the Master of Star Palace had no choice but to take action. He fought with a peak Emperor God from the other party. In the beginning, Palace Master was no match for him. He had no choice but to perform secret skill of Star Palace and killed the peak Emperor God in the end. The moment the news spread, Alliance Sanctuary shook and many forces including many solo experts. There were one or two great emperors among the higher-ups in Sanctuary Alliance who were interested in secret skill of Star Palace in the Master of Star Palace's hand. Of course, the great emperors who were high above didn't force the Master of Star Palace personally, but experts of the other forces have no scruples. Hence, a large number of experts came to threaten and cajole. In short, they wanted Palace Master to hand out the secret skill of Star Palace. However, Master Palace got secret skill of Star Palace from 7-Star Realm. The secret skill couldn't be passed on but could only be inherited in Scripture Depository. Those experts from Sanctuary Alliance wanted the Master of Star Palace to hand out secret skill of Star Palace. In other words, it is to hand out the inheritance of secret skill of Star Palace. Then, Lineage of Star wouldn't be able to cultivate this secret skill. Why would the Master of Star Palace be willing to? Then Jian Wushuang was surprised. Secret skill of Star Palace could only be inherited in Scripture Depository and couldn't be passed on? However, Jian Wushuang remembered that when he had received the secret skill in Green Fire World back then, he hadn't received the inheritance of secret skill of Star Palace but he had passed the test of Star Foggy Sea. Then Lord Spirit Sound who controlled Star Foggy Sea had given him a token. In the token, there was the complete secret skill of Star Palace. If secret skill of Star Palace couldn't be passed on and could only be inherited, how could he explain the token? Not only the token that contains secret skill of Star Palace, but also Star Foggy Sea. It appeared in Green Fire World and it isn't ordinary. Jian Wushuang's eyebrows were tightly knitted. Green Fire World was totally sealed off from the outside world. How did Star Foggy World appear in Green Fire World? Lord Spirit Sound. Lord Spirit Sound who controlled Star Foggy Sea. After Jian Wushuang took control of Star Foggy Sea, she had disappeared. Jian Wushuang didn't know where she went to. There were many situations that Jian Wushuang didn't understand. It was a pity that he didn't think of it back then. The Master of Star Palace had already passed away and he couldn't ask. Then, Jian Wushuang looked at Hall Master Yuan. Then, the Master of Star Palace had no choice but to massacre, Hall Master Yuan said. Back then, Palace Master also has the fighting power of a peak Emperor God and he cultivated the second volume of secret skill of Star Palace. When he performed with all his strength, his fighting power had already reached the level of a great emperor. A great emperor carrying out a massacre is a disaster. Most importantly, when Palace Master wandered in 7-Star Realm back then, he absorbed a drop of blood essence by chance. Blood essence. Jian Wushuang was confused. That was blood essence left behind by a top expert in 7-Star Black Sect and the blood essence was combined with a terrifying power of Star. Chapter 1847 Massacre in the Past Part 2. Due to the drop of blood, the time that the Star Palace Master has when he unleashes the secret skill of Star Palace is much longer, Hall Master Yuan said. Under normal circumstances, after a cultivator cultivates the first volume of the secret skill of Star Palace and activates the star power to unleash the secret skill will only last for 10 breaths time. When the second volume is activated, the secret skill will last for a breath's time. Similarly, the Star Palace Master unleashed the second volume of the secret skill of Star Palace. However, due to the drop of blood, he can continue his massacre for over hundreds of breaths time or even longer. If he were to not care about the consequences and continue to deplete the drop of blood, continuing his massacre for hours would not be a problem. As such, when the Star Palace Master went on a killing spree back then and massacred for an hour, he massacred the experts of all the powerhouses to the point that they were all terrified. Moreover, back then the Star Palace Master had also planned to fight his way into the bases of those powerhouses and destroy all of them. In the end, Emperor Bai from the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance showed himself personally to resolve this matter. Emperor Bai? Jian Wushuang was stunned. According to what he knew, Emperor Bai was a supreme being and on normal days he would be too lazy to care about the fights in the Sanctuary Alliance. Although the Star Palace Master's massacre back then had caused an extremely huge commotion, was it still not enough for Emperor Bai to show himself? I have no idea why Emperor Bai decided to show himself. However, in the end, with the mediation of Emperor Bai, both parties came to an agreement where, from then on, all the powerhouses and sects are to not think of the lineage of Star's secret skill of Star Palace. Moreover, the Star Palace Master has also been restricted. In the eternal chaotic world, unless the other party comes to his doorstep of their own accord or they are being overly aggressive to the lineage of Star, he must not unleash the secret skill of Star Palace to massacre wantonly, Hall Master Yuan said. Is that so? Jian Wushuang understood. He also finally understood why all the powerhouses in the eternal chaotic world were so fearful of the Star Palace Master. Moreover, even though his ranking in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list then was greater than the Star Palace Master's, he was still not a better deterrent than the Star Palace Master. So it was due to that drop of blood. Due to that drop of blood, the Star Palace Master could massacre wantonly, and that was indeed frightening. If I were to unleash the secret skill of Star Palace with all my might, I would also be able to unleash fighting capabilities that were not inferior to that of a great emperor. However, I could only maintain that state for a breath's time. As for the Star Palace Master, he could maintain it for hours, Jian Wushuang gasped. For a breath's time, even if the other party were to stand still and allow him to kill them, Jian Wushuang would still be unable to kill many of them. However, if it were hours, the Star Palace Master could definitely kill all the enemies who provoked him. After the wanton massacre by the Star Palace Master, a huge grudge was held between the lineage of Star and those big powerhouses, as well as quite a number of experts who traveled alone. Although those big powerhouses and the experts who traveled alone were filled with hatred toward the lineage of Star, they still had their greedy eyes cast on the secret skill of Star Palace. However, due to them being fearful of the Star Palace Master's absolute abilities, no one dared to be reckless. For many years this has always been the case. However, during the wanton massacre back then, more than half of the drop of blood that the Star Palace Master obtained was depleted. Be it the danger that he encountered while traveling in the ancient mystery land or the lairs, he had also unleashed the secret skill of Star Palace. As such, the drop of blood continued to decrease, and during the past few years, not much of it was left. The moment the drop of blood is completely depleted, the Star Palace Master will naturally lose his ability to frighten others. Then, if the experts from the powerhouses knew about it, they would probably start another great battle, and the lineage of Star will definitely be unable to stop it. As the Star Palace Master knew about this, he tried to make a breakthrough to Great Emperor. It is only by becoming a real Great Emperor that our lineage of Star can rest easy. After hearing Hall Master Yuan's words, Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun became silent. Previously, when they had known that the lineage of Star was in danger from Hall Master Yuan's words, Hall Master Yuan had not made the danger clear to them. It was not until then that they understood the point. At the same time, they also understood the Star Palace Master's troubles. In other words, even though I am currently ranked 30 on the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, which is one position higher than that of the Star Palace Master, I am still unable to frighten those experts for real, Jian Wushuang said with a heavy voice. That's right, Hall Master Yuan nodded his head. If you really want to frighten those experts from the powerhouses who have cast their greedy eyes on the secret skill of Star Palace and also have a huge grudge against the lineage of Star, it is still far from enough with the fighting capabilities of the top 30 of the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. What we need is the fighting capabilities of a great emperor, and minimally, we would also need to have fighting capabilities comparable to the level of the Underworld God. The Underworld God? Jian Wushuang squinted his eyes. The Underworld God was ranked 16th on the Heaven and Earth ranking list, and he was the number one after the great emperors. As such, he was the strongest expert among the emperor gods. In the 6,000 years that Jian Wushuang had traveled in the ancient battlefield, he had obtained quite a number of opportunities, and his abilities had risen considerably compared to the past. Previously, in the battle in the Deluge Fortress, he had also not used his full power. However, even if he were to use his full power, he would still be unable to compete with the underworld god in terms of fighting capabilities. Even Jian, whose abilities were more powerful than his, was still slightly inferior to the underworld god. Fighting capabilities at the level of the underworld god. Although I am unable to achieve it now, as long as I am given time, I will have an opportunity to achieve it, Jian Wushuang muttered. Jian's abilities were still recovering, and at then, he had only recovered to middle stage chaotic realm. However, if he were to recover to the peak of middle stage chaotic realm, with his identity of an expert from the ancient past, his abilities would definitely not be weaker than those of the underworld god. Moreover, his abilities might even be more powerful. Palace Master, at present, most of the experts who traveled alone and have huge grudges against the lineage of Star have been eliminated by you. Hence, the remaining ones should be those big powerhouses. However, those powerhouses are not easy to deal with, Hall Master Yuan said. Jian Wushuang also understood. For them to be able to become a big powerhouse in the eternal chaotic world, they were definitely not normal. Perhaps even with the number of almighties that the big powerhouses had on the surface, their abilities as a whole might still be inferior to those of the Deluge Fortress. However, what those big powerhouses were the most frightening in was not the number of experts they possessed. Instead, it was their great foundations. There was a saying that a slight change would affect everything else, and it could be best used to describe those big powerhouses. If Jian Wushuang were to take action against a big powerhouse for real, and if he wanted to destroy them completely, the big powerhouse would counterattack. As such, they would use all the resources that they had, as well as favors and friendships that they had accumulated throughout the years to get help from experts. Moreover, there would definitely be many arguments within the Sanctuary Alliance. Jian Wushuang reckoned that if he wanted to destroy a random big powerhouse, it would definitely not be much easier than destroying the Deluge Fortress. Moreover, if those experts who traveled alone knew of teaming up to go against the lineage of Star, those big powerhouses would naturally team up in succession should they smell danger. By then, it would be even more troublesome. Chapter 1848 Weak Poin. These major forces couldn't be exterminated. We shouldn't bother with them as of now, Jian Wushuang said. The three Hall Masters nodded simultaneously. Hall Master Yuan, there's something you're required to do, Jian Wushuang said. Then he waved his hands and there were divine weapons and sets of armor that appeared in the void in front of them. The moment the divine weapon and armor appeared, the aura that spread was extremely ferocious. Chaotic divine treasure. They are all chaotic divine treasures. So many chaotic divine treasures? Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun were dumbfounded. Palace Master, this is... Hall Master Yuan looked at Jian Wushuang in shock as well. I got these chaotic divine treasures coincidentally. As for where I got it, you don't have to know. You only need to know that I used a chaotic divine treasure level armor as the price to invite Emperor God Jian to be Lineage of Star's guest elder on the way back, and Emperor God Jian agreed. In a few thousand years' time he will arrive in Lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang said. Emperor God Jian? He agreed to be Lineage of Star's guest elder? That's great. The three Hall Masters were filled with excitement. One should know that he was an Emperor God. On the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list, there was only a total of 81 Sir Gods. After Jian Wushuang's massacre there was less. Any Sir God was a supreme overlord that could deter the world. Lineage of Star was up against a great threat, and it was definitely a great incident for a new Emperor God to join them. As for the chaotic divine treasure level armor, although it was precious, it was worth exchanging for an Emperor God. There are 21 chaotic divine treasures, 18 attack divine weapons and 3 sets of armor. I will pass them to you now. Jian Wushuang looked at Hall Master Yuan. At such a crucial moment, Lineage of Star has to make use of all resources. For the upcoming period, Hall Master Yuan, figure out a way to get some solo experts, using these chaotic divine treasure or other resources as a condition. For example, you can promise them that they can cultivate the first volume of Secret Skill of Star Palace if they could work for Lineage of Star for how many tens of thousands of years. With these conditions, invite them to join Lineage of Star and strengthen our overall power. Of course, you don't have to make them agree immediately. After all, they have yet to find out about the deaths of the Master of Star Palace, nor do they know the potential danger that Lineage of Star is in. Even if they agreed now, when the news spreads and the danger descends, the people will regret their choice. So, you only have to get in touch with them now and communicate with them. Let them know that we have the intention to. As for true recruitment, that shall begin after the danger starts revealing itself. Those who agreed then are sincere. Besides, the experts that you invite definitely can't be those who are vicious and commit crimes. Even if they could be beneficial to the lineage of Star because of rewards given, they will betray trust at crucial times and they might even stab the heart of lineage of Star. We of lineage of Star don't need experts like them. I understand. Hall Master Yuan nodded heavily. He naturally knew what Jian Wushuang meant. There were many solo experts in eternal chaotic world. They were all kinds of people. Which experts were worthy to invite with chaotic divine treasure or with large amount of resources and which experts shouldn't be taken in, Hall Master Yuan knew very well and he knew how to do it. Hall Master Gun Xn, Hall Master Nye Yun. Jian Wushuang looked to the other two Hall Masters. The two of you shall assist Hall Master Yuan in this. After all, Hall Master Yuan is a weapon spirit. His body can't leave universe galaxy and he can only rely on token communication. However, there are times where some negotiations will have to be done in person. Then it'll have to trouble the two of you to make trips to see them. No problem, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun immediately agreed. Go ahead, Jian Wushuang waved. The three Hall Masters immediately went to carry out their tasks. As for Jian Wushuang himself, to Jian Wushuang the power increase was of paramount importance. Not only did he have to increase his own but most importantly he had to increase Jian Yi's. After all, once Jian Yi's power resumed its peak, it would be peak chaotic realm, also the level of Great Emperor. He was also extremely strong among Great Emperors. By then, with Jian Yi as his trump cards, it would be enough to deter all forces in eternal chaotic world. Lineage of Star on Sword Star. I have killed many almighties. I took many elixirs and treasures that could be used for power recovery. There are some from Lineage of Star as well. There are 2 white blaze fruits for you too. For the rest of the time, you have to try your very best to recover your power. Jian Wushuang looked at Jian Yi and exhorted. Yes, Master, Jian Yi nodded politely. Jian Yi immediately went to cultivate in seclusion. Then Jian Wushuang went to another secret room as well. Before the danger descends, I already did everything that I could for Lineage of Star. Now I have to prepare for the upcoming war that is going to explode, Jian Wushuang muttered. It's a pity that I am a real god and I have yet to obtain the 7th step of inverse cultivation skill. Hence, I couldn't be aiming to become an almighty. As for my power, I have already increased whatever I could. It is almost impossible for me to increase my power tremendously in a short period of time. Hence, the only thing that I can do now is to figure out ways to compensate for my weak point. Weak point. Jian Wushuang did have a weak point then. His weak point was his soul. His soul strength was maintained at the extreme limit of real god. Such a soul power wasn't weak in his realm. However, his current weakest opponent would be a Sir God and he often fought with Emperor Gods as well. Luckily, until then he had not come across any Sir Gods of Emperor Gods who had focused on soul attacks like Sir God Tian Yuan. Hence, no one did soul attacks to him. But once he came across one, a soul attack of Sir God level, he might be able to struggle for a while. But if it was an Emperor God who was good at soul attacks that attacked him, Jian Wushuang was not confident that he could withstand it. Hence, before Lineage of Star became a public enemy, he had to improve his weak point. Walala. Jian Wushuang waved and there were a bunch of elixirs for enhancing soul power and many natural treasures that appeared before him. Most of the treasures were extremely precious and there were a few kinds that were worth more than tens of thousands of doctrine gems. Jian Wushuang prepared them carefully. Before the news about the Master of Star Palace's death spreads, my soul must break through. Let's begin. Chapter 1849 Substance Like Soul. Before the upcoming danger, with Jian Wushuang as the backbone, the few higher-ups of the Lineage of Star were completely united. After Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shijun had obtained a large number of Chaos Divine treasure from Jian Wushuang. They had gotten in touch with some experts that had good conduct and also traveled alone. After that, they revealed their intentions to invite them to the Lineage of Star. Moreover, this step was carried out secretly. Everything went on as they had expected and it was carried out step by step. As for Jian Wushuang, he was using his full power to raise his own soul power. As for Jian Yi, he was doing his best to recover his abilities. Time passed by quickly and in a flash, 800 years had passed. In a secret room in the Sword Star. I have made it. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes and they were filled with delight. In his sea of consciousness, there was originally a pile of soul fire that was burning vigorously. The soul fire had undergone a transformation to become a substance like soul. This substance like soul was also a shadow and it looked like a baby. However, its quality was completely different. Substance like soul. Jian Wushuang's soul power had finally made a breakthrough to achieve the level of an almighty. This stage was actually a critical stage for many real gods to make a breakthrough to become an almighty. Quite a number of real gods had already fulfilled the conditions in other areas. However, as they were unable to form the substance-like soul, they were unable to make a breakthrough to become an almighty. However, Jian Wushuang, as an inverse cultivator, he had already lit the soul fire when he was a Tao master. Moreover, as he had also cultivated the universal Tao scripture, his soul power was nurtured and hence increased continuously. As his abilities rose, his soul fire became more vigorous and it achieved the limit of a real god. After training with great effort for 800 years and also with the aid of many treasures, his soul fire finally completed its transformation. The moment it made a breakthrough, Jian Wushuang realized that his own substance-like soul was a lot stronger than that of normal cultivators when they made a breakthrough to the same stage. It was not just in terms of quality. It was also in terms of how vast the soul power was. When a normal cultivator had just formed his substance-like soul would at most be of the size of the fist of a baby. Moreover, it would also be invisible. It was only by continuing to improve it in the future that the substance-like soul would become clearer and its volume would increase as well. However, his substance-like soul then was of the size of the fist of a baby and it was also extremely clear. In terms of quality, it was also a lot better. Perhaps this is due to me nurturing the soul power step by step, starting from when I was a Tao master, Jian Wushuang murmured. However, no matter what, the moment his substance-like soul was formed, his weak point was made up for by a great extent. For him then, it would probably be difficult for the soul attack of a normal Sir God to affect him. As for an Emperor God-level soul attack, although it was still a threat to him, the threat was not as great as before. Moreover, when he traveled alone for more than 6,000 years in the ancient battlefield back then, among the large number of opportunities and treasures that he had come across, there was a special treasure. It was a ring and it was known as the Soul Ring. This soul ring was worn by Jian Wushuang on his hands and it should be a kind of treasure that defended the soul. However, it was a pity that it was partially destroyed and it was far from able to unleash its power when it was at its peak. However, it was still able to defend Jian Wushuang considerably. With the substance-like soul formed and the soul ring to act as a defense to my soul, my current soul defense is definitely not weaker than that of a normal emperor god. Moreover, I still have time and I am still going to improve it, Jian Wushuang laughed. In no time he closed his eyes and continued to improve his soul. His substance-like soul had just formed and it was still extremely weak. Hence, there was naturally a huge room for improvement. Time passed by. In a flash, 1,800 years passed. By adding the 500 years from before, Jian Wushuang had already secluded himself in training for 2,300 years. However, he had still not come out of seclusion. Just then, in the Purple Moon Sanctuary, in another land in the Purple Moon Sanctuary which was known as the Red Glow Land. The overlord of the Red Glow Land was the Red Glow Fairy Palace and it was a powerful powerhouse which could compete with the lineage of Star Head-On. In the giant, ancient fairy palace, there were many high summits that stood upright. At one of the peaks of the lofty summits, there was an exquisite bamboo house. In the open space in front of the bamboo house, there was a white-robed married woman who was sitting down quietly and she was knitting a green upper garment. The cloth that she used was obviously the normal kind. However, more than half of the green upper garment that was knitted was unusually smooth. Moreover, its color was also comparable to that of a warm jade and it looked good as well. Just then swoosh. A purple-robed figure appeared at the summit abruptly and came before the white-robed married woman. It was a dignified purple-robed woman and she was emitting an impressive divine power. She was a Sir God expert who had reached her peak. Mother. The palace master who took charge of the Red Glow Fairy Palace was Sir God Qifeng and she was greeting the white-robed married woman with respect. The white-robed married man did not turn her head to look at Sir God Qifeng. Instead, she only cared about herself and continued to knit the clothes. However, she opened her mouth and said, "I have just gotten a report from the Great Elder and her group of people. She mentioned that our Red Glow Fairy Palace has some conflict with the Soaring Heaven King Palace during this period of time." Mother knows about it already? Sir God Qifeng's expression changed. "Tell me what is going on," the white-robed married woman asked. This matter started because of Sir God Shenbing. Mother also knows that Sir God Shenbing once had a grudge against the Red Glow Fairy Palace and that the Red Glow Fairy Palace has always wanted him dead. However, now that Sir God Shenbing has joined the Soaring Heaven King Palace and that he has the Soaring Heaven King Palace supporting him, he totally does not care about the Red Glow Fairy Palace at all. Don't you think that this is infuriating? Sir God Qifeng said. Sir God Shenbing. He has actually joined the Soaring Heaven King Palace? Moreover, the Soaring Heaven King Palace has also agreed to take him in? The white-robed married woman revealed a surprised expression. Mother, you have always stayed here to train and you have never asked about the world's affairs. Sir God Xianbing has been forced by the Sword Emperor of the lineage of Star to the point that he had no way out. Hence, he decided to join the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Sir God Qixing gave a simple explanation regarding what had happened during this period of time, especially Jian Wushuang's wanton massacre. After talking, did you say that it is not just the Sword Emperor himself and instead, the two other Sir Gods of the lineage of Star are also hunting some real gods who have a grudge against the lineage of Star wantonly? The white-robed married woman stopped her hand movements and she looked in the direction of Sir God Qifeng. That's right. In that period of time back then, the lineage of Star was indeed massacring wantonly. However, perhaps due to them having gotten rid of most of the experts who traveled alone already, they had quietened down. However, not long ago, I heard that the lineage of Star had the intention of recruiting some experts. I really have no idea what they are trying to do, Sir God Qifeng said. Oh? The white-robed married woman raised her eyebrows. After muttering to herself for some time, she revealed a strange smile. I understand now. No wonder they are doing this. Chapter 1850. Died? No wonder. Sir God Qifeng looked confused. The white-robed woman smiled but didn't reply. Then she flipped her hand and there was a token. Mother, this is? Sir God Qifeng looked at the token. This is the communication token of the Master of Star Palace. For the past 3,000 years, I sent many messages to the Master of Star Palace. He replied to me with a few messages in the beginning. Then, for the past 2,000 years, he didn't reply at all, the white-robed woman said. No reply? Sir God Qifeng was surprised. The Master of Star Palace even visited Mother personally to ask Mother to set up a formation for him. He should be making preparations for an opportunity in the ancient Mystery Land. All these years he has been staying in ancient Mystery Land. You sent him messages but he didn't reply? Could he be fully concentrated in some sort of opportunity or could he be carried away with comprehension? Carried away? The white-robed woman smiled. In the beginning I thought so too. As he went in for an opportunity and he prepared so meticulously beforehand, it would be normal if he received an opportunity in ancient Mystery Land. But later on, about 300 years ago, I sent him another message but he still didn't reply. That's a little strange. Because he and I have an agreement that he would rush to mine 300 years ago and he would complete one task on my behalf. It was also a condition for me to agree to set up the formation for him. The Master of Star Palace is a good person and his reputation is great. Otherwise, I wouldn't have promised him back then. However, when it was our agreed time and he didn't come here, he didn't even send me a message. That was strange. After all, even if he was carried away in the opportunity and he couldn't rush over in time, he could at least reply and inform me. Mother, what you're trying to say is that the Master of Star Palace has died? Sir God Qifeng stared. Previously, it was hard to say. After all, he might be in places with unique spacetime and he couldn't send any message. However, I heard from you that lineage of Star has been acting strange. Especially when I heard about Sword Emperor massacring in madness, I became 70% certain that the Master of Star Palace had died, the white-robed woman said calmly. One should know that lineage of Star has been at peace for so many years. Although they have many enemies, they never killed their enemies so wantonly before. After all, as long as the Master of Star Palace is alive, lineage of Star's enemies couldn't stir any trouble. Plus Jian Wushuang. Although he is young, he could reach where he is now as an inverse cultivator. He is definitely not stupid. He should know that when the limelight is too strong, the risk is high, especially when his identity as an inverse cultivator is so sensitive. There were originally a lot of people who didn't wish to see him grow. At such times, if it isn't necessary, he should get stronger in silence. When his power increases and he breaks through to become an almighty, his wings will be full-fledged and there will be almost no one who can do anything about him. He can do anything he wishes then. He would then truly be able to act wantonly without scruples. By then, it won't be a problem for him to massacre the enemies or even major forces. But it should definitely not be now. Sir God Qifeng nodded in silence. She felt that what her mother had said made sense. Read more chapter on VIP novel. Ever since Jian Wushuang's massacre, although it had led to his bad name, it had also made everyone fearful of him. There were a lot of people who wished for him to die. There might even be people who were preparing in silence. It was really too risky. Besides, Lineage of Star has started to rope in experts with all kinds of methods. Everything I said combined, I am determined Lineage of Star definitely has a reason that made them do so. As for the reason besides the death of the Master of Star Palace, I couldn't think of the second, the white-robed woman said with a smile. Sir God Qifeng heard her and her heart skipped a beat. Yes, mother, you're right. Only if the Master of Star Palace dies will that lineage of star would lose their mainstay. Under helpless circumstances, they took the initiative to kill their enemies, to exterminate them. That's why Jian Wushuang was keeping a high profile. Sir God Qifeng agreed with his mother's conclusion. From what she knew, Jian Wushuang had fought with Soaring Heaven King Palace back then, and he had kept silent and lied low after he had been listed on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list. He had been quiet for 6,000 years. In the 6,000 years, Jian Wushuang had improved tremendously. He could totally continue to lay low and continue to improve his power. However, with no symptoms, Lineage of Star had suddenly started massacring his enemies. It was too strange. On top of that, the Master of Star Palace didn't reply to any messages when the agreed time was up. The possibility of the Master of Star Palace's death was extremely high. The Master of Star Palace, such a horrifying existence, he died in ancient Mystery Land? Sir God Qifeng sighed. The Master of Star Palace, although he was only on the 31st on Heaven and Earth's supreme ranking list, he was considered an outstanding one among peak emperor gods but not the top. However, the experts in Sanctuary Alliance knew clearly that if the Master of Star Palace were to explode and perform secret skill of Star Palace without scruples, its level of scariness would be above Underworld God, who was the top person among emperor gods. Such an expert had died? Ancient Mystery Land has many opportunities, but there are even more dangerous places. These places, forget about emperor gods like the Master of Star Palace, even a great emperor would die without a doubt when they enter. The Master of Star Palace only thought of being a great emperor to serve as a better deterrent to all forces. It was a pity that he belittled the danger. Now that he has died and lost his functions, Lineage of Star, the white-robed woman shook her head slightly. Sir God Qifeng's eyes beamed when she heard that. One should know that Red Glow Fairy Palace and Lineage of Star were on Purple Moon Sanctuary, and they weren't too far apart. There was a conflict of interest too. If Lineage of Star were to be in danger, Red Glow Fairy Palace would receive many benefits too. Mother, the news about the Master of Star Palace's death, do you think we should spread it? Sir God Qifeng said. You're the Palace Master of Red Glow Fairy Palace. Do you want to hide or spread the news for Lineage of Star? It's your decision. But one thing, even if you want to spread, it can't be spread from Red Glow Fairy Palace. It must be done through a third person, do you understand? The white-robed woman said. She had a deal with the Master of Star Palace, but there was no friendship. She had helped the Master of Star Palace to set up a formation, and it was merely a deal made. Hence, she didn't have the thought to safeguard Lineage of Star. I understand. I will head to Vientiane Tower now. Sir God Qifeng was extremely excited. Chapter 1851. A tossed stone raises 1,000 ripples. There was a high possibility that the Star Palace Master had died. After this piece of news was spread to the Vientiane Tower, it was further spread to the whole eternal chaotic world in an instant. A tossed stone had raised 1,000 ripples. The Sanctuary Alliance and the experts in all the powerhouses of the eternal chaotic world burst into an uproar at once. Of course, after getting the piece of news, many experts doubted the authenticity of it right away. After all, many people knew how frightening the Star Palace Master was. Although he was ranked 30 in the Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list, if he were to go crazy, only great emperors could stop him. How would such a powerful existence die so easily? Moreover, even the Vientiane Tower said that there was a high possibility that he had died. This meant that the Vientiane Tower was unable to confirm it for real, probably because of the fact that no one had seen him dying nor seen his body. It was just a guess. As it was only a guess, it was naturally unable to convince everyone. However, the basis for such a guess from the Vientiane Tower was indeed worth pondering about. Firstly, there was no news from the Star Palace Master. No matter who tried to contact him, there would be no reply. This point had already been proven to be true. When quite a number of experts who possessed the transmission token of the Star Palace Master had obtained this piece of news, they tried to contact the Star Palace Master right away. However, there was no reply, and this was the same for the people who were extremely close to the Star Palace Master. Moreover, it was said that one of the great emperors from the higher-ups of the Sanctuary Alliance had tried to contact the Star Palace Master personally. However, there was no reply as well. This meant that the Star Palace Master was definitely in an extremely dangerous situation. Otherwise, it would be impossible for him to not reply even to his good friends or a great emperor when one tried to get into contact with him. However, this alone was still not enough to confirm that the Star Palace Master had died. After all, There were some places with special spacetime in the ancient mystery land where it would be normal for him to be uncontactable. Next, the Vientiane Tower mentioned the unusual activities of the lineage of Star over the past few years. In particular, Jian Wushuang's wanton massacre. With that, they made a guess, and this had really caused many people to harbor suspicions. Indeed, for the past few years the lineage of Star had been unusual. For so many years they had put up with the existence of enemies. However, ever since the Star Palace Master became uncontactable, they started to hunt down those enemies wantonly. There was Jian Wushuang, who was extremely talented. Previously he had remained silent and laid low for 6,000 years. However, without any warnings, he had displayed his talents abruptly again. This was really challenging other people's level of tolerance toward him. In the Sanctuary Alliance, there were probably many people who did not wish to see him growing to such a frightening state. Hence, it would be best for him to remain silent and lay low during this period of time. As for revealing his talents of his own accord, that was considered stupid. Why would Jian Wushuang choose such a stupid path? Moreover, for the past few years, the lineage of Star had been secretly using all kinds of techniques to recruit some experts. Although there were no agreements made during the recruitment, the lineage of Star indeed had the intention to recruit experts. By adding all these factors together and thinking about it many times, it could not help but make many people suspect if the Star Palace Master had really died for real. Colored Glaze Sanctuary, inside the Soaring Heaven King Palace. Emperor God Tian Shao and the remaining almighties in the Soaring Heaven King Palace had gathered together. All of you have probably heard about the news. Emperor God Tian Shao looked down. According to my predictions, there is indeed an extremely high possibility of the Star Palace Master being dead. Great. The large number of Sir Gods below revealed delighted expressions. It should be known that when the Star Palace Master went on a killing spree many years ago, some of the experts that he had killed were from the Soaring Heaven King Palace as well. Back then, a grudge was born between the Soaring Heaven King Palace and the lineage of Star. After that, when the Soaring Heaven King Palace had fought with Jian Wushuang, they had suffered heavy losses. By adding this new grudge to the old enmity, the Soaring Heaven King Palace then detested the lineage of Star greatly. After getting to know that the Star Palace Master had died, they were naturally elated. Palace Master, with the lineage of Star losing the intimidation of the Star Palace Master, all the powerhouses will definitely come together and attack them. With that, our Soaring Heaven King Palace will be able to take revenge. Sir God Qing Fu clenched both his fists tightly and said, "Let's not rush things." Emperor God Tian Shao shook his head. "Big Brother has still not returned yet. Before we can confirm that the Star Palace Master has really died, we should not act recklessly. After all, if the Star Palace Master really goes crazy, he will be extremely frightening. Before Big Brother returns, the Soaring Heaven King Palace is absolutely unable to stop him. Let's sit back and wait first. We shall think about it after the news has been confirmed. Before that, we only need to make preparations to take action." All right. Many people below nodded their heads earnestly. However, their hearts were filled with excitement that was difficult to conceal. Red Dragon Sanctuary, Evil Light Divine Sect. That old bastard is finally dead? An unusually evil, purple-armored youth, who was more than 3 meters tall, gave an earth-shaking roar and his voice resounded across the hall. At the bottom of the hall, tens of experts were gathered and they were extremely excited as well. It's great that he has died. It's really great that he has died. Back then, this old bastard killed a total of 4 almighties of our Evil Light Divine Sect in one go. Moreover, even the previous sect master died in his hands. This is the greatest humiliation that our Evil Light Divine Sect suffered ever since we were founded. However, it's a pity that our Evil Light Divine Sect has always had no way to take revenge. However, now he's finally dead. Although he's dead, the lineage of Star that he founded is still there. Kill. Sect Master, let's take action immediately and destroy the lineage of Star. The eyes of some people were scarlet in color and they were filled with murderous intent. Let's not rush things. The unusually evil youth waved his big hands. We must definitely avenge Master. Also, we must get rid of the humiliation that our Evil Light Divine Sect has suffered. However, it is still too early now. Although the Vientiane Tower has spread the news of the Star Palace Master dying, there are still some disputes. As such, there needs to be another step of confirmation to determine whether the Star Palace Master is dead or alive. Before that, we cannot act recklessly. Wait, we have to wait. Let's wait until someone is unable to control themselves and take action first. After waiting for the news to be confirmed, it will still not be too late for us to take action. From now on, get someone to monitor each and every action of the lineage of Star tenaciously. The unusually evil youth's orders were made known to the lower levels quickly. The whole Sanctuary Alliance was already seething with excitement, and many old bastards who had secluded themselves from the world were shocked by this piece of news. As for the lineage of Star, they naturally obtained this piece of news immediately. In a secret room in the Sword Star, Jian Wushuang was still trying to raise the level of his force of soul. After so many years, his force of soul had risen slightly. Just then, Palace Master, there's trouble. Hall Master Yuan sent a message over, and his voice was filled with anxiety. Jian Wushuang opened his eyes at once. After that, he went out of seclusion straight away. In a hall which contained a vast void, Jian Wushuang and the other 3 hall masters were seated. The expressions of the 4 of them were extremely ugly. Jian Wushuang's hands were holding on to a token, and the token contained a piece of news that the Vientiane Tower had spread at a shocking speed. As he looked at the piece of news in the token, Jian Wushuang sighed lightly. What should come has finally come. Chapter 1852. Visit the Master of Star Palace had just passed away, and it was a fact. The fact would be found out eventually. Jian Wushuang and the others were mentally prepared. There was someone who had made a speculation that the Master of Star Palace had died based on the inability to get in contact with the Master of Star Palace and the abnormal behavior of Lineage of Star. Although it was beyond Jian Wushuang's expectations, there was no choice, they had to act like that. After all, Ancient Mystery Land only opened once every 5 million years, and it only opens for 10,000 years each time. The moment the limit of 10,000 years was reached, the Master of Star Palace wouldn't exit Ancient Mystery Land. It meant that he had definitely passed away. By then it had been 8,000 years. It was merely 1,000 years earlier than expected. However, they seized the chance to kill a large number of solo experts who harbored grudges against Lineage of Star. Hall Master Yuan, how did the recruitment of experts using Chaos Divine Treasure and other resources go? Jian Wushuang asked. It is going well. Until now, Lineage of Star has got in contact with over 30 solo experts. Among the over 30 solo experts, more than 1/3 of them are quite convinced by the condition we offered. Among the solo experts there were 2 Emperor Gods. But according to Palace Master's instruction, I have yet to let them give me their answers, Hall Master Yuan reported. It's right to not them answer yet. The news about the Master of Star Palace's death has spread, but it is mere speculation after all. No one is definite that the Master of Star Palace is dead. Before they confirm that, there shouldn't be anyone who has the guts to take action against Lineage of Star. Even if they do come, Lineage of Star shall deal with them. During this time, let the people consider clearly if they want to join Lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang said. Then, Jian Wushuang tapped on the armrest and replied after he thought for a while, the news has spread and the forces in Sanctuary Alliance are definitely in a hubbub. Every one of them is keeping watch of Lineage of Star. They intend to determine what's true or false through our response. The closer we approach the crucial moment, the calmer we should carry ourselves. Even when people send us messages to ask the Master of Star Palace's whereabouts, tell them that the Master of Star Palace is in a unique place in Ancient Mystery Land and there is a hindrance in spacetime so we couldn't contact him. If there is anyone who is trying to be funny with us, counter soldiers with arms, water with an earthweir. Regardless of the situation that we are going to face, we of Lineage of Star shall adopt the appropriate measures. Hearing Jian Wushuang's reply, Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Nye Yun nodded heavily. Lineage of Star then was different from before. Even if the Master of Star Palace passed away, Lineage of Star still wouldn't be one that anyone could provoke. Alright, you are dismissed. As usual, do what you usually do, Jian Wushuang. Read more chapter on VIP novel. Yes, the 3 Hall Masters nodded. The entire Sanctuary Alliance and the entire eternal chaotic world were talking about the news where the Master of Star Palace had passed away, but Lineage of Star, who had obviously become a public enemy, wasn't shaken at all. All forces kept watch of Lineage of Star but realized that Lineage of Star wasn't any different. Those who should cultivate continued to cultivate. Those who should wander continued to wander. Those who should go for an adventure continued to go for an adventure. It was as though they had never heard of the news. The equanimity made the forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance even more confused. They didn't understand if Lineage of Star pretended to be calm or if the Master of Star Palace wasn't dead at all, so they were confident. Those people who were itching to launch an attack settled down in order to not make a rash advance. Such a situation was only maintained for a month's time. 1 month later, outside Universe Galaxy where Lineage of Star was. A shabbily dressed elderly with messy fiery red hair and a dirty body, like a beggar's, appeared. The slovenly elderly looked at the resplendent galaxy in front of him and there was a flash of strange light in his eyes. He then said, "Zhulong, you specially came here to visit everyone in Lineage of Star." His bright and loud voice spread across Universe Galaxy, also traveled into Lineage of Star's lair. The experts in Lineage of Star and the disciples heard the voice but they weren't surprised. As one of the top forces in eternal chaotic world Lineage of Star, who had befriended some experts, would have some visitors in Lineage of Star occasionally. Was very normal. However, the few higher-ups in Lineage of Star heard the voice and their faces changed. Zhulong? It must be Emperor God Zhulong. Hall Master Yuan's gaze grew solemn. Emperor God Zhulong has nothing to do with Lineage of Star and he isn't a friend of ours either. We go our own way without interfering with each other. He isn't among the experts that I tried to get in contact all these years either. What did he come here personally for? Who knows? Hall Master Jian asked coldly. Swoosh. There was an illusionary figure and Jian Wushuang appeared next to Hall Master Yuan. Palace Master. Hall Master Yuan immediately looked at Jian Wushuang. Emperor God Zhulong, although he isn't a peak Emperor God, he isn't too low-ranked on Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list either. He visits personally and we of Lineage of Star can't leave him outside. How about this? Hall Master Yuan, you and Hall Master Gu Xan welcome him in. I will watch in silence. With me here he shouldn't be able to stir up any trouble, Jian Wushuang said. All right, Hall Master Yuan nodded. Then Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xian immediately greeted him personally. At the border of Universe Galaxy. Haha, Emperor God Zhulong came personally. We of Lineage of Star are greatly honored to have you as our guest. Hall Master Yuan had just got there and his laughter spread. The slovenly elderly Emperor God Zhulong looked at the two of them. You must be Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xan from Lineage of Star. Emperor God Zhulong looked calm and composed. However, he thought to himself, I, an Emperor God, came to visit personally but Lineage of Star only sent 2 Sir Gods to welcome me. Jian Wushuang didn't even come out? He thinks so highly of himself. Of course he didn't display any displeasure on the surface. Emperor God Zhulong welcome. Hall Master Yuan and Hall Master Gu Xan brought Emperor God Zhulong into Milky Way. Very soon they arrived in Lineage of Star's lair. On a star where they received visitors, the 3 Hall Masters of Lineage of Star were there. Emperor God Long Zhu sat in front of a long narrow table and there were maidservants serving him. As for Jian Wushuang he never revealed himself. Emperor God Zhulong, I wonder what's the purpose of your visit in Lineage of Star? Hall Master sat on the highest throne as he asked. Hall Master Gu Xan and Hall Master Nie Yun looked at Emperor God Zhulong. Chapter 1853 Testing O. After hearing Hall Master Yuan's question, Emperor God Zhulong became stunned and he laughed. To tell you the truth, I have come this time around to look for the Star Palace Master. Look for the Star Palace Master? The hearts of the 3 Hall Masters moved. Since Emperor God Zhulong had come at such a time to pay a visit to them, it would definitely be not without any reason. Looking at it then, Emperor God Zhulong had come just to test out the situation. He had wanted to get a feel of the situation in the Lineage of Star and also to find out if the Star Palace Master had really died. Although they were certain about this in their hearts, Hall Master Yuan was expressionless on the surface and he said, Emperor God Zhulong, you should know that the ancient mystery land opened not long ago. As such, our Palace Master has been staying there over the past few years and to date, he has still not returned yet. It's alright that he has not returned yet. It will be fine as long as he fulfills the matter that he promised me back then, Emperor God Zhulong said. The matter that he promised you? When and what did our Palace Master promise you? Hall Master Yuan was still indifferent. Not long ago, before he entered the ancient mystery land, he had once asked some experts and I to help him deploy a formation. As a condition, he promised to let us into the scripture depository of the Lineage of Star to cultivate the secret skill of Star Palace. Do you know of this matter? Emperor God Zhulong asked with a stern expression. What? Hall Master Yuan's expression changed. At the same time he knew immediately that Emperor God Zhulong was definitely lying. To the Star Palace Master, the secret skill of Star Palace was extremely important and he would absolutely not promise Emperor God Zhulong that he could cultivate it. The reason why Emperor God Zhulong dared to say this then was because it was nothing but a form of test. Since no one was able to contact the Star Palace Master then, no matter what he said, it could not be confirmed. Emperor God Zhulong, I am unable to contact our Palace Master now. Hence, I do not know if there is really such a matter. Hence, are you able to wait for another period of time for our palace master to come out from the ancient mystery land? By then, it will still not be too late for you to come again, Hall Master Yuan laughed. Wait for another period of time? I do not have the time and energy to continue waiting. Emperor God Zhulong's expression turned grave. The Star Palace Master promised me that a long time ago. No matter what, I want to cultivate that secret skill of Star Palace today. I'm sorry, before the Palace Master returns, it is impossible for me to let you go to the scripture depository, Hall Master Yuan said right away. Humph, this is the way your lineage of star treats a guest? Emperor God Zhulong gave a cold snort, slammed the table and jumped up in anger. His voice was filled with fury, and the most important thing was that with his divine power, his voice spread across the whole lineage of Star, and a large number of expert disciples in the lineage of Star heard the cold snort. In no time, the lineage of Star burst into an uproar. What's going on? This voice is the same as the expert called Zhulong from before, and it should be from the expert who came to pay a visit to the lineage of Star. However, looking at it, his discussion with the Hall Masters is not going well. Quite a number of deacon elders and disciples headed toward the constellation. Such a scene had caused the expressions of Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Shi Yun to turn ugly. Just then, Emperor God Zhulong, right? You really have a short temper. All of a sudden, an ice-cold voice could be heard, and it reverberated across the universe. After that, a young man who carried a sword on his back walked over slowly. It's Hall Master Wushuang. Hall Master Wushuang has come. When the deacon elders and the disciples of the lineage of Star saw Jian Wushuang, they revealed scorching hot expressions in succession. Those deacon elders and disciples still did not know of the news that the Star Palace Master had died. As such, they naturally did not know that Jian Wushuang had already become the new Palace Master. Thus, they still addressed Jian Wushuang as Hall Master Wushuang. Upon seeing the person who had come, all the anger that Emperor God Zhulong possessed originally dissipated at once. Sword Emperor, Emperor God Zhulong wore a smile. After all, Hall Master Yuan and the other two Hall Masters were Sir Gods, and he did not need to care about them. However, Jian Wushuang was ranked 30th in the Heaven and Earth Supreme ranking list. Hence, he did not dare to be furious in front of Jian Wushuang. Jian Wushuang shot a glance toward Emperor God Zhulong. After that, his body turned vague and he appeared at the highest point of the hall. His ice-cold eyes then looked at Emperor God Zhulong. No matter what our Palace Master promised you before, you will still need to wait for our Palace Master to return to the lineage of Star first. Moreover, after it has been confirmed, you will be able to get your reward. Before that, you had better wait quietly. I was too impatient. Emperor God Zhulong laughed with embarrassment. However, after another hundreds of years, I will need to make a trip to the second lair, which is quite dangerous. Before that, I hope to obtain the secret skill of Star Palace to help myself stay alive. If I were to wait for the Star Palace Master to come back from the ancient mystery land, it would obviously be too late. Hence, how about this, Sword Emperor? Is it possible for you to tell me the current location of the Star Palace Master? I will go to the ancient mystery land personally to look for him and then get him to send a message back. Is that all right? Upon hearing that, Jian Wushuang laughed with ridicule. What a joke. Our Palace Master has just obtained a great opportunity, and he is at the most critical stage. At this point of time, why would I tell you his current location? Emperor God Zhulong, you really know how to imagine the wildest things. Even if he is in a critical stage, transmitting a message is as easy as blinking an eye, and it will absolutely not affect him. Sword Emperor, since you are unwilling to tell me his current location, could it be that the Vientiane Tower's guess is right and that the Star Palace Master has already died? Emperor God Zhulong's eyes had a strange expression, and he was staring at Jian Wushuang. Similarly, his words were spread intentionally using his divine power, and they reverberated across the whole lineage of Star. In particular, the last few words resounded repeatedly, and they did not dissipate even after a long time. When the deacon elders and the large number of disciples in the lineage of Star heard that, all of them were stunned. Palace Master has died? Is this real or fake? Many deacon elders and disciples became dumbfounded. As for Jian Wushuang, his expression turned cold abruptly and his eyes were filled with murderous intent. You're courting death. With a cry, 3 brilliant rays of golden light appeared at the same time. Swish, swish, swish. The moment the 3 rays of golden light appeared, they changed into a golden rainbow, pierced the void and appeared in front of Emperor God Zhulong. Not good. Emperor God Zhulong's expression changed greatly. His motive this time around for coming was to get a feel of the situation in the lineage of Star. He had never thought of fighting head-on with Jian Wushuang, who had a mighty name. Moreover, he recognized the 3 rays of golden light. They were the 3 Hongjun golden swords, the treasures that the Sword Emperor was famous for. Rumble. Powerful divine power burst forth. In a dangerous situation, Emperor God Zhulong unleashed his full power. His big hands were covered with a great amount of flames and he unleashed 3 palm attacks in succession instantly. Bam, bam, bam. 3 booming sounds could be heard in succession and every booming sound was accompanied by the appearance with a giant black hole. After the booming sound, puff, Emperor God Zhulong spit out a mouthful of blood wildly. Chapter 1854 Jian Wushuang's Strength. Then, Emperor God Zhulong could only feel his internal organs burning and his aura instantly grew dispirited. At the same time, his heart was shivering with fright. He's too strong, just as stated on the information. Jian Wushuang's 3 Hongjun golden swords are as powerful as a hit of a peak Emperor God each. The combination of the 3 could simply suppress an ordinary peak Emperor God. Virum, virum, virum. The 3 golden lights floated in the void and floated in front of Emperor God Zhulong. With Jian Wushuang's willpower, the 3 Hongjun golden swords would attack again and kill Emperor God Zhulong. Sword Emperor, spare my life. Emperor God Zhulong quickly begged for mercy. I do not have bad intentions. I do not harbor malice. You do not harbor malice? Right, you do not. However, the purpose of your visit and what you are thinking in your head, you and I know clearly. There's no need for bullshit. Listen up. Go back and tell the people behind you that they'd better send some powerful experts if they intend to probe lineage of Star and find out if our palace master passed away. If they have the power to force lineage of Star into a desperate situation, into a corner, then they will find out. What's the purpose of sending rubbish like you? Jian Wushuang sneered. Emperor God Zhulong heard and felt angry. One should know that he was an emperor god and his ranking on heaven and earth supreme ranking list wasn't low, but in the end Jian Wushuang had referred to him as rubbish? Emperor God Zhulong, I will give you 2 options now. Either you stay here or you *ck off. Jian Wushuang said coldly. Emperor God Zhulong looked furious but he couldn't let loose. He could only hold back his anger and turn to leave. Watching Emperor God Zhulong leave, the surrounding hall masters let out breaths of relief. Jian Wushuang's gaze was cold. He looked at the deacon elders and disciples that had gathered around him. The elders and disciples looked on in distress. They were obviously affected by what Emperor God Zhulong said. What you all of you doing standing here? Go ahead and do what you must, Jian Wushuang bellowed. The elders and disciples looked at Jian Wushuang in reverence and then turned to leave. Although they left, their emotions would be hard to calm down. Jian Wushuang could do nothing about it. I never thought that Emperor God Zhulong would make that move. Jian Wushuang's voice was low. Emperor God Zhulong tried to probe verbally and Jian Wushuang was mentally prepared. Even when he intentionally became angry, it was within Jian Wushuang's expectations as well. However, Jian Wushuang had never expected that Emperor God Zhulong would intentionally spread the news about the Master of Star Palace's death within lineage of Star so that the elders and disciples would hear of it. One should know that the founder of lineage of Star, the Master of Star Palace, was truly the mainstay. As long as he was alive, lineage of Star would be in safe hands. However, even though the news about the Master of Star Palace's death had yet to be verified, the elders and disciples in lineage of Star would inevitably be suspicious. Especially when the news spread to the other elders and disciples, everyone would panic and lineage of Star would lose its order. At such a crucial moment, unless the Master of Star Palace revealed himself again, the situation would be hard to deal with. I really want to kill Emperor God Zhulong earlier, Jian Wushuang said coldly. Emperor God Zhulong came to visit after all and he never provoked lineage of Star in public. If we were to kill him in lineage of Star, it would be unreasonable, Hall Master Yuan said. I know, that's why I held back, Jian Wushuang said. However, they didn't give ourselves away when Emperor God Zhulong probed. The forces and experts in Sanctuary Alliance still couldn't be sure if the Master of Star Palace passed away. It's alright, but we have to comfort our elders and disciples. Hall Master Yuan, please take care of this. No problem. I know what to do, Hall Master Yuan replied. Jian Wushuang nodded and then returned to Sword Star to begin cultivation. He had to grasp every minute and second to increase his power. On the other hand, not long after Emperor God Zhulong had left lineage of Star, he appeared in a unique void. There were 4 thrones floating in the void and there were 4 figures seated on the throne. Of course, the four figures were merely consciousness incarnation. They represented the four major forces in eternal chaotic world. For instance, Emperor God Tian Shao from Soaring Heaven King Palace, his consciousness embodiment was among the four. Emperor God Longzhu, how did it go? Emperor God Tian Shao looked at him. Needless to say, judging by his look, he definitely got rejected. An evil-looking elderly teased. Emperor God Zhu Long humphed coldly, then he took out a token. This is the mirror image after I entered Lineage of Star. I recorded it with the token. I have probed whatever I can. As for the result, you can determine it on your own. Then Emperor God Zhu Long left. He had gone to probe Lineage of Star personally because of the benefits that the four major forces had offered. He had already acted according to the four major forces' requirements. He didn't care about the final result. After Emperor God Zhu Long had left, the four consciousness embodiment on the throne immediately watched the mirror image. The four of them were quiet after they saw the scene within Lineage of Star. Did you notice anything? Emperor God Tian Shao looked at the other three figures. No, the evil-looking elderly shook his head. From the beginning until the end, the experts from Lineage of Star were calm and composed. As for Sword Emperor, he was as overbearing as ever. Besides, the elders and disciples in Lineage of Star looked like they didn't know the news about the Master of Star Palace's death. Calmness can be forged. As for the elders and disciples, it's normal that they wouldn't know about the death of the Master of Star Palace. It is such a major news. The moment it spread, the entire Lineage of Star would be in chaos. If I were to be Sword Emperor, I definitely wouldn't announce it either. The one that I truly care is Sword Emperor. His strength is shocking, a brawny middle-aged man said. Before the news about the Master of Star Palace's death spread, it was normal that he is so overbearing. But now, one should know that Emperor God Zhu Long is an Emperor God and there is a strong force backing him up. However, Sword Emperor got furious because of his one line and Sword Emperor injured him directly. If they weren't in Lineage of Star's lair, I reckon he might have killed Emperor God Zhu Long directly. Chapter 1855. The First to Do I? After pausing for some time, the stalwart, middle-aged man continued speaking. This Sword Emperor is so aggressive and he is not impudent at all. This is not something that he can pretend to be so easily and he must definitely be extremely confident to do it. Moreover, where exactly did his confidence come from? The three people by the side looked at each other. Jian Wushuang's confidence? Subconsciously, they thought about the Star Palace Master. Could it be that the Vientiane Tower's prediction is really wrong and that the Star Palace Master is not dead at all? Instead, he has only entered a special place and he is unable to contact the outside world? The evil old man said. It is hard to say. However, we are unable to come to a conclusion with just Emperor God Zhu Long alone, Emperor God Tian Shao said. They did not know that Jian Wushuang's confidence did not come from the Star Palace Master. Instead, it was from the power that he possessed as well as the large number of trump cards that the Lineage of Star had. With Jian Wushuang bringing many Dao soldiers back to the Lineage of Star and an expert from the ancient past overseeing things, as well as his own abilities, Jian Wushuang and the Lineage of Star were still extremely confident even though they had lost the Star Palace Master. Especially Jian Wushuang, from the start of his training to date, he had come across all kinds of dangers and he had been used to it since a long time ago. Moreover, he had already thought of a way out. If a great battle were to really break out and the Lineage of Star were unable to compete against its opponents even after using all its trump cards and powers, he would at least bring some core experts of the Lineage of Star and escape to the Green Fire world. Over there, not only was it hidden and no one knew about it, there was a great formation that his master, Xianyi, had deployed. As such, no one could do anything to them. The most important thing was that the training environment in the Green Fire world was a lot better than that of the 10 sanctuaries. As such, he could absolutely stay at the Green Fire world and hide there for a period of time to allow his sword servant, Jian, to completely recover his abilities. Then, with the fighting capabilities of a great emperor, even if the Green Fire world were to appear again, who would dare to act recklessly? Of course, Jian Wushuang would only do this at the final stage when there was no other choice. Furthermore, due to the presence of this route of retreat, Jian Wushuang was not afraid in the slightest bit. If we really want to know if the Star Palace Master has died, there are only two ways to do it, the stalwart middle-aged man said with a heavy voice. Firstly, we will wait for the ancient mystery land to close. Then, we will see if the Star Palace Master comes out from the ancient mystery land. However, there is still more than 1,000 years' time before the ancient mystery land closes. More than 1,000 years' time was considered nothing to these old bastards who stood at the highest point of the eternal chaotic world and had lived for an unknown number of years. To them, it was just the instant of flicking a finger. However, if they had to wait for another 1,000 over years then, they would feel uneasy. After all, Jian Wushuang's speed of growth was too fast. His speed of growth was really incredible. In more than 1,000 years' time, there was a high possibility that his abilities would rise again. Moreover, the most important thing was that during the 1,000 years, the lineage of Star could make ample preparations to deal with the upcoming danger. Moreover, they could move the core experts of the lineage of Star, as well as the method of inheritance of the secret skill of Star Palace, to another location secretly. Then, even if they were to fight their way in, what they would destroy would simply be an empty shell. In more than 1,000 years' time, there would be many changes, the evil old man said. If we do not wish to wait for more than 1,000 years, we can only use the second way, as Jian Wushuang said. We have to force the lineage of Star into a hopeless situation. In order to do this, we need someone to lead a big group of experts and fight their way into the lineage of Star. The stalwart middle-aged man's voice was cold. The three people by the side nodded their heads in succession. If the lineage of Star were already in a hopeless situation and the Star Palace Master did not show himself or there was no news about him at all, then it meant that he had died. However, the key question was, who would they get to do that? Tianxiao, during this period of time, your Soaring Heaven King Palace has had the fiercest fight against Jian Wushuang. Hence, it would be extremely logical for your Soaring Heaven King Palace to fight your way to their doorstep now. The stalwart middle-aged man looked in the direction of Emperor God Tianxiao. Forget about my Soaring Heaven King Palace. During the intense battle with Jian Wushuang previously, we lost quite a number of almighties. If we were to have a life-and-death kind of great battle with the lineage of Star again, even if we were to win, my Soaring Heaven King Palace would be close to destruction. Emperor God Tianxiao laughed apathetically. How about the three of you? For the past few years your powerhouses have already recovered to your peaks. Why not make a trip to the lineage of Star? You should know that if you are the first one to fight your way into the lineage of Star, the method of inheritance of the secret skill of Star Palace will belong to you. My Divine King Island is not so established, unlike the powerhouses of the three of you. Hence, we do not have the means to go against the lineage of Star. The stalwart middle-aged man shook his head repeatedly. With the appearance of the ancient mystery land, more than 70% of the almighties of my real martial arts divine church have gone there to travel. For a short amount of time, we are unable to organize a team of experts to fight their way into the lineage of Star. The evil old man laughed. As for the last person, he said right away, my highest heaven emperor mansion will not do it. Upon seeing such a scene, Emperor God Tianxiao's eyes squinted and he laughed coldly within his heart. Although the four powerhouses had gathered together then, they had not been united since the start and all of them had their own selfish motives. They were still not sure about the lineage of Star's situation and the Star Palace Master's death was not confirmed yet. In addition, they knew that they might obtain the method of inheritance of the secret skill of Star Palace if they were to be the first one to fight their way into the lineage of Star. However, no one dared to do it. Since no one is willing to take action, let's disperse. Emperor God Tianxiao waved his hands and his figure was the first one to dissipate it. The remaining three people laughed nonchalantly. After that, they disappeared from the void. In no time, the news that Emperor God Zhulong had paid a visit to the lineage of Star and was seriously injured by Jian Wushuang due to him talking recklessly spread within the Sanctuary Alliance. Jian Wushuang's aggressiveness had caused quite a number of people to be extremely surprised. Such aggressiveness. This Sword Emperor is probably very confident. Could it be that the Star Palace Master is not dead? Who knows? However, now, if we want to find out whether the Star Palace Master has really died, it will be totally useless to rely on a simple test. Someone has to take action and fight a great battle with the lineage of Star. Moreover, he must force the lineage of Star into a hopeless situation. However, the key thing is, who will be willing to be the first one to do it? The first one to do it. These words were indeed used appropriately. Although the first person to do it would take the greatest benefit, he would need to face the greatest amount of risk. Sticking one's neck out, everyone knew this saying. If the Star Palace Master were not dead, this first person who did it would face the merciless massacre of the Star Palace Master. Although a great number of powerhouses in the Sanctuary Alliance were ready to start something, none of them was willing to be the first one to do it. For the next 10 years' time, even though the Sanctuary Alliance and the whole eternal chaotic world were seething with excitement, no one dared to take action against the lineage of Star. Until one day. Chapter 1856. Abysmal Palace? In the lofty palace, there was a total of over a dozen figures that stood there waiting. Among the dozens of people, The one leading was a middle-aged man in a baggy green robe. The middle-aged man was tall and well-built, and his aura was enough to shock an ordinary emperor god. His name was Wu Luo. Palace Master Wu Luo, a peak emperor god in the 25th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. One should know that Emperor God Lu Guang, who Jian Wushuang had invited to destroy Deluge Fortress regardless of the price he paid, was only in the 27th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. Palace Master Wu Luo was slightly stronger than Emperor God Lu Guang. However, a strong existence like him was standing in reverence before a dark blurry figure floating in front of him. The dark figure was very dark. When he was there, it was as though there wasn't any light in the universe. Go ahead. Go and kill Jian Wushuang. There's no reason for Lineage of Star to continue to exist. The dark figure said, and his figure slowly dispersed. Palace Master Wu Luo watched the blurry figure disperse in reverence. Then he stood in front of the experts and waved, "Let's go to Star Land." Very soon the news spread like wildfire in Sanctuary Alliance. Abysmal Palace was going to attack Lineage of Star. Ever since the news of the Master of Star Palace's death had spread, they had been standing at the heart of the struggle. However, as the news had yet to prove its veracity, it was still at peace. However, all forces and sects were eyeing Lineage of Star with hostility. They were all waiting to see who was the one who loses patience first. Who would be the bird at the head of the pack? Then, Abysmal Palace obviously could hold back no more. Lineage of Star, Jian Wushuang, Hall Master Yuan, Hall Master Gu Xian and Hall Master Niu Yun gathered at the hall. Abysmal Palace, who would have guessed it would be Abysmal Palace? Hall Master Yuan's face grew grave. One should know that although Lineage of Star had offended many forces and experts, Abysmal Palace wasn't one of them. Then, the forces and experts who harbored great resentment against Lineage of Star didn't take action, but Abysmal Palace was the first. Abysmal Palace, Abysmal Saint Master, I will remember this. Jian Wushuang clenched his hands as his eyes gave out a chilly gleam. Abysmal Palace was one of the major forces in Sanctuary Alliance. They were also the top 3 superb forces in terms of foundation and power among the forces in Sanctuary Alliance. In terms of foundation, power, and fame, Abysmal Palace was much scarier than Soaring Heaven King Palace. In Abysmal Palace, the number of Almighties alone was more than 20 and there were 4 Emperor Gods. As for Palace Master Wu Luo, he was in the 25th place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list. He wasn't the scariest. The scariest was the founder of Abysmal Palace, Abysmal Saint Master, who was in 3rd place on Heaven and Earth Supreme Ranking list, who was on par with Red Dragon King, second to Emperor Bai. They were already so powerful themselves. In addition, they had a great emperor who was in 3rd place, Abysmal Saint Master, who backed them. Just how scary Abysmal Palace would be. Under normal circumstances, even Soaring Heaven King Palace, which was barbaric, would exercise self-control when dealing with Abysmal Palace. Abysmal Palace and Lineage of Star shared no resentment. During the Master of Star Palace's massacre back then, Abysmal Palace hadn't partaken in the war, nor had the Master of Star Palace killed any of their men. However, they were the first who took action against Lineage of Star. Jian Wushuang immediately realized that Abysmal Palace wasn't aiming for Lineage of Star, but their main target was actually him. Abysmal Saint Master wanted to kill him. As for the reason behind it, Jian Wushuang was sure. Back when he had met Abysmal Saint Master in Deluge Fortress, he could tell that Abysmal Saint Master hadn't liked him and held a faint murderous intention. However, the people in Sanctuary Alliance knew. Hall Master Yuan, only Abysmal Palace is coming after Lineage of Star alone? Jian Wushuang asked. It seems to be so on the surface, Hall Master Yuan answered. On the surface? How about at the back? Jian Wushuang asked closely. I have no exact answer. However, there must be many forces and experts that follow Abysmal Palace. However, before Abysmal Palace forces Lineage of Star to play our strongest trump cards, they won't have the guts to take action, Hall Master Yuan said. I understand. Jian Wushuang nodded and there was billowing murderous intention in his eyes. He looked at the 3 Hall Masters in front of him and he spoke with a cold voice. As Abysmal Palace is taking action, it was definitely Abysmal Saint Master who told them to. However, Abysmal Saint Master is a great emperor and he is restrained by Sanctuary Alliance. The fight between Lineage of Star and Abysmal Palace, no matter how ferocious the fight becomes, as long as we do not step foot in the lair of Abysmal Palace, he won't get involved. Plus, it was the Master of Abysmal Palace who took the initiative to attack Lineage of Star, so we won't have to worry. As Abysmal Palace wants to be the bird at the head of the pack, Lineage of Star can only go all out and knock it down. Hearing what Jian Wushuang had said, The 3 hall masters clenched their hands and let out a chilliness. Lineage of Star was different from before. Even without the Master of Star Palace in the commanding position, they wouldn't be bullied as one wished. As Abysmal Palace wanted to come, they naturally would counterattack with full force. Hall Master Yuan, send a command down. Tell the experts and disciples of Lineage of Star who are on Star Land to immediately return to Universe Galaxy at their fastest speed. As for experts in other sanctuaries and wandering elsewhere, you don't need to chase them back. Also, from now on, keep watch of Abysmal Palace. I want to know their every move, Jian Wushuang said in a low voice. Yes, Hall Master Yuan immediately sent down the command. After receiving the command, the experts and disciples of Lineage of Star immediately returned to Universe Galaxy at their fastest speed. 10 days later, a huge warship appeared on Star Land. The warship didn't conceal itself but plunged towards Lineage of Star's lair at its top speed after it descended. They charged forward very quickly and weren't hindered at all. Lineage of Star received the news the very moment they descended as well. Palace Master, Abysmal Palace is already in Star Land. They rushed over in a spaceship, and according to the information that our spy got, there is a total of 18 people in the spaceship. They are all almighties. Among there are 3 Emperor Gods and 15 Sir Gods. They are led by Palace Master Wu Luo himself, Hall Master Yuan reported solemnly. They arrived very quickly and there are so many experts. 3 Emperor Gods, 15 Sir Gods, this team formation. Jian Wushuang's face was cold. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.